Hi guys.
Hello.
Welcome to the Diversity Saves charity stream tonight. We are playing in Gobble Gobble Boil and Trouble, which is a one pager of pure chaos. And before we get to that, we just kind of want to give you some information. You may see on our overlay some information about donations, but we also have information around what your donations can do to add some additional chaos to tonight's games. So $1, you can give a player of your choice. I think someone's already in trouble. Did we get a donation to cause that much chaos? $1 will give a player of your choice a +2 or a -2 on their next ability roll. $2 will determine what the next spell smells like, which I will explain why that's a thing here in a little bit. $5, you can give the next spell a mind of its own, so it does not what was intended by the spellcaster. $10, you can create a familiar, because this magical family is a menagerie of familiars. So you can make anything a familiar that you want to. For $15, you can create an additional in-law family member that the magical family has to deal with. For $20, you can make the house, which is also its own kind of magical creature, do some random thing that you want it to create a little bit more chaos. And if you really want to bump up the stakes even a little bit more, for $50, you can create a magical disaster that they all have to deal with. And the reason all of these things are happening is because our wonderful magical family has invited some non-magical folks to the holiday dinner, because they have now in-laws. So this is a game where a magical family, our players, are attempting to keep the in-laws from discovering that they are, in fact, a magical family. So think like an extreme don't wake daddy situation, with even more shenanigans and some dice. So before we hop into the story itself, we're going to let everyone kind of introduce themselves. I've already done a lot of talking, so I'll go last. Instead, I am going to... no one can see the order that we could see people in. So I'm going to hand it off to our Uncle Wally character. Introduce yourself, let everyone know where they can find you, and what else that they can find from you.
Cool. Hi, I'm Steve. TallHalfling on the socials. I have recently mostly been doing one shots and charity games. On Sunday, you can find me on Tavernaut's Twitch, playing deathmatch, which I haven't quite figured out yet. So, but tonight we're here for our dinner with the in-laws. Playing Uncle Wally, and you'll get to know him in a minute.
Awesome. And we will toss it over to our very colorful Grandpa Eustachius.
I believe you mean Walford. It's Walford, sir. No, I'm Devin, or Archedas, as most people would know me online. I work with UGT, Undeniably Good Time. We produce live play shows and various one-shots and stuff. Right now, we're running Strange Aeons on Saturdays, and Sundays we have an Abomination Vaults game that I get to play in. Normally, I'm behind the scenes, but you can find me at Archedas2 on Twitter, or our general, like, UGT's entire Twitter is UGT Show on Twitter. There's a link tree on there, so you can find us on Discord and everywhere else that we have various stuff that we have for socials. But I'll be playing Grandpa Eustachius today, who certainly is not going to be a problem at all, stuck in his old ways about not wanting to not be magic. That sounds lame.
Yes, no, definitely going to have a hard time with Grandpa. We're going to toss it over to Maddie. Tell us who you are as a player, and let everyone know where they can find you.
Hi. So I'm actually Mira playing Maddie. It's so fun. I should have thought that through, keeping the same first initial. I don't do streams very often. This is, I think, the second ever that I've done, and I just really enjoyed watching. So I'm a big fan of streams. But I am over on TikTok as Mokoish, doing bit of everything, mostly book stuff, but dice collections. I have quite a bit of a hoard, and so that's what I do.
Awesome. And I am, of course, the GM for tonight of this chaos and the chaos bringer. I am Kayla GMs. A lot of you might know me because I do a lot of charity streams when people ask me to, but also because I am the general manager over at UO Publishing. So you've probably seen us pop up for all of our crazy stuff that we're doing in Cypher now, including Harrow and Wild Space, which are our two big setting books for the system. You can find me at Just Thinking K. And from there, there's a link tree in my bio that takes you away from Twitter and to everything else so that you can also get away from Twitter. No one needs to be left in that dumpster fire. We are all here for you to get you to other things. But with that out of the way, if there are no more announcements or things, I'm going to pause to see if there are from anything from Diversity Save side that I forgot. And then we can get into the game. Awesome. Okay. So, in our blended eggnog and turkey wishes, which is the name of this session in Gobble Gobble Boil and Trouble, we open up a little bit before the event itself happens in an apartment downtown. It's a nice kind of apartment. It's, a 2-bedroom. It's a little small, but considering, with residency and everything, the residents really aren't home that much. We see in the kitchen is Maddie with her wife, Catlina. And Catlina's like really excited and bubbly and like getting something together to take to the dinner because she can't herself not bring something to it. And she's like excitedly chattering and going, oh my God, like I can't believe like we're finally going over to dinner and your family's gonna be my family and we're gonna meet each other together. And she's getting this together, and your cat familiar, Pixie jumps up and she like gives Pixie scritches and is like, no, you can't have this here, and like gets some wet cat food out for Pixie, and Pixie's just like so happy and purring as they chomp away. And she's just chattering on and on about how excited she is about this. Because, again, we're going to do a little minor flashback. About a couple weeks ago, you all had a big drag-out fight. Because despite the fact that you all have been in a committed relationship for a very long time, all through your graduate school, her going to school to be a doctor, her finally getting residency, you got engaged, you eloped. But through all of that, she's kind of had this thing about, why haven't I met any of your family, really? Like, why haven't our families met? Like, it kind of all bubbled up and boiled up to a big drag out fight where instead of telling her the thing you were originally going to tell her about yourself, you just blurted out, well, my family's in town. We can totally have a holiday. Because your excuse up to this point had been that, your family's overseas, which is not untrue. The magical house that your family resides in has been overseas up to this point. Before it poofed over here for a little bit. And so you use that as kind of a scapegoat for the building emotions of like, oh, I can't tell her. I gotta tell her. I can't tell her. I gotta tell her. And that came out instead. So for the last several weeks, she's just been buzzing and happy and like getting stuff together for it and like letting her family know to meet there, letting her mom Debbie know, and she's like so excited. You've heard her like chatting on the phone to her mom, about like, make sure you make a really good impression because it's taken me a really long time to get to make this happen, and we got to put our best foot forward. And I really want them to like me. And her having conversations with her sister Stephanie and her brother Jesse, and even her grandpa Theodore, and being like, look, like, I need you to not be yourself. I need you to be nice. I need you not to mess this up. And so that's what's happened to the 2 weeks leading up to the scene in the kitchen of her like happily getting like some sort of dessert or something together to take with you all, and just buzzing and like happily chatting with you and like asking you like questions about like the house and like, things about your family and that she should know, maybe to like, don't talk about, the Great War with Grandpa and things like that. And so she's just happily like buzzing away, like getting this stuff together, and like it's almost ready to leave to head to the house at this point.
Yeah. I think very similarly, Maddie's just like trying not to have a little panic attack in the corner. She keeps fiddling with her ring, and kind of lightly glaring at Pixie anytime Pixie gets too close to anything. Just like, stay away. And then like turning to Cat. So, okay. So remember, we're going to be merging the families, and they are it's just such the most normal of houses. It's so normal. Everything about it is just like your normal, like, have you seen a singular Hallmark movie? It's just a simple house. And remember, we're pet people, right? There's going to be a few pets around. Everyone's taking their allergy pills.
Yeah, I mean, the only one that would, be in question would be Jesse, but he should be good. We made sure that he took his medicine. And I'm so excited that they're letting us bring Pixie, because I was really worried about leaving Pixie here for, the holiday dinner, because it would be really sad to just be here all by themselves, like, that's so sad.
Yeah. Pixie can be alone for a little bit, but yes, yeah. A very pet-friendly household, so makes sense. Okay, and you didn't make anything with walnuts, specifically walnuts, right?
No, I had nothing with walnuts. I do have, I did make a German chocolate cake, but I also made like a more normal like pumpkin pie. And I've got cans of whipped cream. I didn't want to put the whipped cream on now. I wanted to wait till we were getting ready to like bring it out for everyone.
Yeah, and there's going to be so much food, Kat. There's going to be food on food. It's going to be great. It's going to be fine.
She kind of like reaches out and put a hand on top of yours, and like she's like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah. Yes, I'm fine. It's going to be great. It's going to be the most normal and totally fine of family gatherings, and no one's going to have a problem. My therapist told me that I should practice manifesting. Is it working?
She was about to be like, I don't know if repeating it like that is going to make it true, because it sounds a little bit like you're spiraling. And I just want to remind you that I love you. My mom loves you. My siblings adore you. Grandpa Theodore even tolerates you, which honestly is super duper high regards from him. So my family loves you, and I'm sure your family will love me.
Oh, they will absolutely love you. It's just the mingling.
Mm-hmm.
They're very great one-on-one. Mostly. Yeah, they're great one-on-one.
Well, I mean, it sounds like there's going to be a lot of people there. I mean, because from what you've told me, you have a big family. So, I mean, there's going to be tons of people in the house. The kids will have people to hang out with. It'll be fine.
It will be. It'll be great. It will be fine. Do you need help carrying things? I think it's almost time if we want to make sure we're not caught in everybody else's traffic. But
Yeah, no, we totally should
Okay.
get going. Mom is picking us up. I think she's almost here, and she like right then her phone kind of like blings off, and it's a text message from Debbie letting you know that she's downstairs, parked, ready and waiting for you guys whenever you want to. And she goes, "Oh my gosh, do we need to grab the carrier for Pixie, or is Pixie going to be okay in your lap?"
Pixie will be fine in my lap, but just for your mom's sake, Pixie, like getting a carrier going and lining it with catnip and food and the favorite mouse toy to entice, because shoving a cat into a carrier is kind of the Russian roulette of knives.
Mm-hmm. And once Pixie is in there and it's closed, you see Catalina try to like slyly, but you know she does this all the time, like go over there and she slips a couple treats to there and just whispers to Pixie, and it's like, "It's totally fine. We'll let you out as soon as we get there."
You spoil her so much.
I do not know what you are talking about. I have done nothing at all. Right, Pixie? No one can prove anything.
You're the best.
And she kind of just like gives you a kiss on the cheek and grabs the German chocolate cake like in its cake covering and starts making her way towards the door downstairs to get into the car. You realize, Maddie, you have maybe this 15-minute ride to figure out what you're going to do here, because you are the only person in the car driving there that realizes that you're about to try and commingle a magical family and a non-magical family without your in-laws figuring out what's going on. And you know you're meeting Stephanie, Jesse, and Theodore there because Stephanie recently has gotten a license in her first car. So she was really excited to drive. So Jesse and Theodore, the grandpa, are riding with her so that they can go straight there. While Debbie swung by to pick you all up. So you know you have a very brief bit of time before this happens. And, you know, Debbie is actually not really even listening to you. She has one of those like crime podcasts going on in the front seat. She's like really intense with like what's going on, and she's like almost muttering to herself, like trying to figure out who the killer is before they get to the end of the podcast.
I love that for Debbie.
And so, well, because you know their family. You know that Debbie is a retired widow at this point. She's in her 50s, but she used to she used to work at the DA's office, so she's a little bit into all of that.
Yeah.
And ever since she's retired, she's gone deep into the like crime podcasts, missing files, like kind of thing, because it's like a fun thing to do on her free time.
So gonna just kind of lean into Kat. I'm assuming that maybe we have like stuff in the front seat so it can be strapped down a little bit better or something, so we're sitting together. Mm-hmm. Okay, and remember, like, if anything here weirds you out in any way, right? You just say the word, "We're out." You know, we'll figure it out. I'll get Debbie in the car. We can get everybody out. No big deal. If anything gets too weird or uncomfortable or something happens and you can't quite explain it and you just want to leave, we can go and I can explain everything.
She kind of like laughs and like pats your knee with her hand. Is like, "You're making this sound like the start of a horror movie, honey. It will be fine."
Yeah. I guess the podcast is getting to me. Who do you think it's going to be, Deb? Is it going to be the neighbor or the ex-husband?
Oh, it's totally going to be the ex-husband. It's always the spouse. Like, either the spouse or the lover. And as far as we know, there's not one in this case. So it's totally going to be the husband.
Always the spouse, huh? Yep, you're right.
And Cat just like laughs again because you're just continuing, and she's just like trying to calm you down a little bit in the back. like maybe we should ask Mom to put something else on because I think it's just adding to your anxiety.
Just promise me that if you ever needed to me for any reason, like we talk about it first, because I will probably gladly do whatever. It's probably my fault. We understand this.
Oh, honey, as a doctor,
so many ways I'd never be found. Exactly. Oh, that's so reassuring.
and she's just like continuing to laugh because she knows like this is you trying to like help your own anxiety and deflect a little bit so that you can focus on something else and calm down. She's like, and like it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
It will be fine.
And right as you get to that point, Debbie kind of pulls in next to on the street, parking in this gorgeous neighborhood. Because your family, the Astromelons, are a very old magic family, but also old money family, which means like you're used to opulence, but you yourself have chosen to go to graduate school, those kinds of things. You chose the apartment that you did because like you didn't really want to take like another like one of your weird family's magical like spaces to live in. You wanted to just kind of like be as normal as possible for Catalina's sake. Your family home, though, it is your like historical family home. Your family owns plots of land all over the world that when your magical house is not there, kind of like weirdly folds itself up in the space so it doesn't look like there's a plot of land there. And then when your family decides to move the house back to that particular plot of land, it just kind of like unfolds and people remember it as always being there. And in this case, you made sure that Grandpa Eustachius made it look exactly like the rest of the neighborhood. It does not look like its normal, crazy, magical, like, little eccentric self. It is a cookie cutter looking facade on the front of this house. It looks like every other large brick manor in this neighborhood. You have made your instructions very clear on that. You're like, I know it's going to be weird on the inside, but I can at least keep it normal on the outside.
I sent them like my favorite Hallmark movies. It's like, I want this to look like this, but in the style. We can do this. We've got some really talented magic users in this family. We can make this happen.
And Grandpa Eustachius probably tried to get some weird stuff past you with like some like unique gargoyle heads or something.
Doors to nowhere from the outside. No.
Well, they just shouldn't open those. It's fine.
Yeah.
You come in the front door, no others.
That is one way to do it, Gramps. But I would encourage standard. Keep it focused. The inside is going to be the inside, right? But the outside can lie. And try, at least.
Walford, how good at you are greenery outdoors?
I keep telling you to call me Wally. Everybody calls me Wally.
You have a fine wizarding name, and you'll use it.
I do have a fine wizarding name. Wally is a perfectly good wizarding name. Wally the Wizard. It's right there.
So
on
that note, are there any other things you have gone over with your family members in the weeks prior to this event, like the normal looking facade of the house, to try and like coach them on what is to come?
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about the menu extensively. No, like we want turkey, we don't want pheasant. Like even just toning down the fancy upper class familyness to a more accessible level. And certainly no phoenix, served for dinner, right?
It
I don't know how.
itself. What's the problem?
Um,
It keeps you full for years. After it's in your stomach, it just rebirths itself and you're not hungry again. It works great.
also
And
makes me think.
Grandpa's cooking. He's gonna set it on fire anyway. Might as well be something that can come back from that.
That's the oven's fault, not me. These new appliances don't agree with magic.
Right. And that's why we're not using magic to cook dinner. Grandpa.
Right.
Right.
No magic for cooking dinner.
And on that note,
Yeah, got it.
no magic in front of my in-laws.
No, you don't have to worry about that. I'll step outside the room to do that.
There's going to be a lot of people here, Grandpa. I need you to be able to keep it together during the whole thing. Not just when they're not in the room with you. Because what's going to happen if you decide to tidy up a little corner of magic and all of a sudden it starts smelling like violets in the middle of November?
That's just nice potpourri to put out.
I mean, yes, it's a very nice smell, but that's an example. What if it was something horrible, like phosphorus or remember that time that we got the troll loose?
He was not big. He's back in the dungeon. Don't worry about it.
Get the troll out of the house.
It's not in the house. I left it at the previous residence. You don't have to worry. The connection's still there, but it's bound to my staff. No worries. Can't be unlocked. No one can wander down there. At least they shouldn't.
Locked doors. Menu. Grandpa, I know that you have your special occasion hat.
Well, yes. Albus gave it to me.
I know. It's very important. It's very regal. It is not very subtle.
In what way?
It reads
Fantastic.
very...
Look at it.
Yes, it's fantastic. But it also reads very... Ask me about my potions business. And I know that you have moved past that stage in your wizarding career, but I just don't want them to get the wrong idea.
Oh. Fine. Give me a moment. Let's see here.
Charming fascinator, bowling hat.
I mean, personally, I don't see the problem. I hear about cornucopias all the time. It just looks like
How's this one? It's my second least magical hat.
Come one, come all.
Walford, looks perfectly fine, right?
Sure. Now that room was no magic in front of the guests, right?
In front of, around, in a location they may stumble upon.
Oh.
I know I'm really limiting you here, but this is big for me. You know, and I want her family to like our family. And if they know all of our family, then there's going to be some very heavy penalties to us specifically. They can't know.
About it. What should we do about the portrait? I can tell it to not move, but that's about it.
Oh, yeah.
And as you say that, it pans out and you see in kind of a place of honor above the fireplace in what is the main sitting room is this portrait that is currently doing this.
No, different pose. The old normal one. Kind of head backwards if you can still manage the bend. Look, I can't tell you how to move yourself. It was there for your
just
dead.
voguing in the corner.
And don't worry, Maddie. I'll have a chat with Kai. You know how bored he gets, but he promised he'll be a cat the entire time.
I'm gonna bring Pixie. I think Cat doesn't go anywhere without Cat anyway. Cat with a cat. I should have thought that one through before I married her, but it's fine. It's worth it. But yeah.
Do tell Pixie not to be insulted by Kai trying to be a cat.
Yeah.
You know how sensitive she gets about that.
I do. She hates it when people pretend to be her. Just make sure that Kai is not the same kind of cat. I don't know what kind of cat Pixie is. She's just Pixie. The vets don't know either.
Well, she's magic, so all of the above.
Yeah, true. All cats. Pick a different cat. A non-house. Pick a house cat.
Just lie and Grograsant will get upset.
This is true.
And as you're saying this, you look over to the portrait, and the portrait's just sitting there next to a table that has appeared, like reading a book and just smoking. And like they're just in the movement for it, but somehow there's like a little trail of smoke leaving the portrait.
Hey, there's gonna be kids.
Yourself on fire.
See, this is what I'm talking about.
You know we can't do anything about that.
I know. We tried the patch, we tried the e-cigarettes, but nothing's working to get them off the habit, and I understand that, but we just have to try to not smoke in front of the family. Excuse my camera. I'm just going to be discoing. I'm so sorry. Every so often it's a rave.
You just have to adjust the colors of the outfit, get it right for the mood and whatnot.
Yeah. Does that sound doable to you up there? No smoking around the children, at least?
I need, like, it's kind of like a stop motion thing. Like, he goes from, sitting there reading and smoking to, like, I guess, and, like, puts it out, sits back, bored.
How bored would you be if we asked you to stick to, like, the same 3 poses?
He kind of gives you a look, and he's like, depends on what the pose. You get the feeling he's like, one, depends on what the poses are. If you're wanting me to hold like something that Grandpa wants me to do, like dramatically,
yeah,
not gonna happen. But also, he gives you a look that from having grown up in this house and being in this house. He's like, kind of like, what kind of deal are you gonna make me to make me do this?
I can get you some chemically enhanced cranberry soup.
And he kind of, now you see like the stop motion change to where he was reading in the chair. The book is aside on the table now, and he's kind of got his hand on his chin on his hand, and he's leaned forward with his knee on his elbow, like he's interested. He's like listening to this deal that you're giving him.
Now, cranberry soup. Pretty good. Solid for touching up the reds in your colors and your palette. But chemically enhanced. We could have mica, some shimmer. Imagine how much more detailed your battle scenes could be with some of this sparkle.
And you see
you want a bigger portrait too, don't you?
you see like there's kind of like I get what you're doing, and then there's kind of almost like a wave wipe across the portrait, and it kind of changes to being a much more typical like family portrait. He's a lot closer to the frame, and it's from about his chest up, and it's just him kind of like looking at the out at those around.
Perfect.
He just kind of like winks at you.
Yes. Okay. Menu. You no magic. Portrait. Hat. Oh, there's got to be something. There's always something.
And at the something, we flash back to the current time. While there are the three of you here representing the Astromelons, there are also going to be dozens more of you running around the house. Same can be said for the in-law side. While we do have a set number of named ones, if you want to make more named in-law family members to throw in a wrench to the works, please go ahead and do that. But you are waiting in the car with Debbie and Catalina, and Stephanie kind of like zooms up a little too fast, kind of that like first-time driver arrogance, and stops a little too like late for your like heart rate, and stops just short of the bumper of your car that you are in. And you can tell she's like rocking out to something. And it's just like, yeah. And you can see that the grandpa's like yelling at her from the back, and she like turns off the car and gets out. And you can see Catalina just kind of like sighs and like gets out too, and is helping you with Pixie's carrier and getting her mom out, and you're all moving towards the door to ring the doorbell. And as you're about to ring the doorbell, it's open.
If I can, as they're getting out of the car, Wally has a moment of, and the doorbell materializes next to the door.
We forgot the doorbell. So as they're approaching and getting ready to do this, there's a confused moment, and then like Debbie turns to say something to you, and then turns back, and there's a doorbell. So she's getting ready to go push it all of a sudden when the door itself opens, and it's kind of like a catering service. And they've just dropped off food, and they're kind of like, saying something back into the house, like, okay, there's your, like, I don't know, 24 pheasants. Let us know if you need anything else. Oh, sorry. Excuse me. Do you guys want to, excuse me. And just kind of like shenanigans through the in-laws and out to what you now see is a white catering van on the curb, because you did tell Grandpa he was not allowed to use magic to cook food.
He would go pheasant next immediately. Yeah.
And as they're leaving and you all are entering into the space, it is truly a bit of a chaos tornado. You see family members chatting. You see all kinds of animals running around, including your cousin's Komodo dragon named Cher with a cute little like print, like almost like leopard print vest on that they use when they take the Komodo dragon for a walk. And they're just kind of like having fun. Looks like they're chasing some of the younger ones, probably like 3 or 4 year olds that are probably children of your cousins or somebody in your family. And they're just having and giggling and having a huge good time. You see like a confused look from your brother-in-law Jesse though at this, and he goes, I thought Komodo dragons were illegal to have as pets.
This is it's a different kind of lizard, technically not a Komodo.
Okay.
Just looks like one.
And Catalina's like, okay, come on, everyone. Like, we already knew there were going to be a lot of animals here. Let's all just get in the house so we can close the door. Maddie, come on, let's go get these desserts to the kitchen.
Yeah. Hi, everybody.
And you just like, everyone's like, just kind of like greeting you, and like your cousins are all like,
mind the pie.
It has probably been going on for like 30 minutes. Some of your more interesting older relatives are probably already a little starting to get like sloshed a little bit, a little soft.
Late? We're not late.
You're not late, but they tend to start real quick. The oldest generation does when it comes to your family gatherings. As you go into the kitchen, you do see like stacked trays of roasted whole pheasants with like lemon and rosemary and they're just, it smells wonderful in the kitchen.
And in deference to you on our promises, hearing you approaching, while he stops in the middle of his conversation with the pheasants, he was interviewing each one, making sure they were ethically raised, and
And as you enter from him, like having this interrogation of the pheasants, to just make sure like what the caterer said was true, you heavily smell bubblegum.
Oh boy. Oof.
And Stephanie goes, bubblegum? That's a weird flavor to have on a holiday.
It's family tradition. If you can find the hidden bubblegum baked into the pie. Sort of like king cake. You remember that?
Why would you put bubblegum in a pie?
Our family created bubblegum I don't remember. It's a whole family story. You should ask Grandpa about it.
That seems weird, but okay.
The
I don't know why I made her a valley girl, but I did, and I'm going with it.
The gum. That's an easy one. You see, back in the olden days, they had to make it out of marshmallow. But traditionally, this was actually made with bubble gum. However, it wasn't the bubble gum that you know nowadays, your kids with the pink Hubba Bubba stuff. This is real gum.
Okay. And
Trust me, it's delicious. You get to chew it for hours.
Stephanie is now at the moment distracted by being told all of this by Grandpa Eustachius, and I'm assuming he's probably going to go on for a while about this, like going very over the top.
There's not a single thing that comes out of my mouth that doesn't end in rambling.
Yeah, and very in depth on this. Jesse still looks a little confused over. You see Cher kind of like skittering through your sight in front of the kitchen door, and again, still kind of chasing the toddlers, like having fun with them. But Catalina sets down the cake and, goes and takes the carrier and, sets it down in a little bit of a quieter area to open it for Pixie to join all of the rest of the animals. But she like looks at you and she's like, are you sure? Because like there's a lizard out. And I just want to make sure Pixie's totally safe.
Oh, Pixie and Cher go way back.
Oh, okay. And so she like opens it up and lets Pixie do her own thing from there. And as you all are kind of dropping things off in the kitchen and getting ready to leave, Maddie, you,
of course,
as someone who has a very high instinct, you occasionally get this little like tingle right before something like magical happens. And as you and Catalina and Debbie are moving to go out of the kitchen, Debbie and Catalina a little bit more in front of you than you are, you hear like this popping, crinkling sound from like foil and the like those little like disposable catering tins that people use, and all of a sudden you hear tink 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 tink, and you see the like tops of the trays from where all of these birds are start to kind of like get bulged out a little bit.
Debbie, have I told you about our cousin who really into true crime? Wally!
What is that sound?
I think it's one of the kids outside. Wally, what is that?
Check that out.
I'll teach you. Let's go meet the cousins. They have one of them used to work for a newspaper. I'm sure you have many things to talk about.
So are you trying to herd both Debbie and Catalina like out of the kitchen to let Wally investigate this? Yeah. I am going to need you to roll me reflex to see if you can get both of these women who are very curious about the sudden like bird sounds coming from the kitchen going on.
Can I assist on that one?
Yes, you can if you want to help. Kind of.
Going to cast a very, very localized silence spell right around the tins.
Mm-hmm. So the sound has at least seemed to stop for the moment. So you're trying to get them out so you can further investigate.
So they're not going to hear, and once they're out of the room, we can deal with it.
Okay, so I'm gonna roll my reflex, which is a D6 for me.
Yep.
4.
Okay. Yeah.
Not
and
the worst.
With the assist of the spell, first, what does silence for you smell like, Wally?
What is the smell of silence?
Cinnamon.
And for those who are like, why did you just ask that question? And why is $2 determine what the next spell smells like? That's a little quirk of this family's magic, is that all of their spells smell like something when it goes off.
Magic's as old as ours are. You have to have tradition.
Yeah.
It's in bills.
So for the moment, Catlina and Debbie are out of the kitchen. Stephanie's still fully occupied by your rambling grandpa. Jesse's kind of like cautiously going over to investigate this like Cher who is not a Komodo dragon.
Definitely a Komodo dragon, but it's not a Komodo dragon.
And you're able to get them out and like close the door behind you for Wally to figure out what's going on here.
And I guess I'm going to lift the lid on one of them and see what I see.
When you lift the lid on the top tray, you see about 6 to 8 not cooked anymore, fully themselves birds looking at you going,
No. We had a whole conversation. You all promised to behave yourselves. I simply cannot tolerate your going back on your word like this. Embarrasses in front of the and I should point out that Uncle Wally has a strength in nature magic, which allows him to speak to plants and animals.
And you get from the like,
mind you, it does not actually say that they can speak to him, but I kind of assume.
You get from their like, like they weren't expecting to be back to birds either. Like they were cool with their fate, and then they're like,
Grandpa's messing with time again. All right.
Don't you blame me for your mistakes again, Wally.
And as you're having this discussion with the birds, the rest of the trays start moving, and you realize that probably the full set of these birds have now, through magic of some kind, somehow popped back into being birds rather than the dinner that they were supposed to be.
Just kind of look over a shoulder, seeing all the motion starting as I'm still distracting this girl, trying to like usher her out of the kitchen. We got to take care of something here. Give me one moment. And Grandpa's just going to bring up his staff a moment and just tap the ground twice and try to pause time.
So where are you trying to pause time? Like just in the kitchen or like the whole house or what?
Primarily in the kitchen, just so that they can stop all the motion of what's happening and the sound escaping it.
Okay,
and
so
from there, once it's frozen, can work with Wally to fix it.
Okay, so you're pausing time excluding Wally and perhaps even Maddie so that they can deal with whatever the heck is going on in the kitchen.
Yeah, basically like get everyone that isn't myself and Wally enough time to like get out, and then the rest of the room is just paused.
Sure. Roll me composure to see if you can pull this off without alerting anyone that you're doing something hinky.
That is exactly a 3 on my D6.
Okay.
And I have a +2 on that roll.
Ah.
For the 12's tail, I believe.
Yes.
That's a 5 on a D6.
Yeah, so you kind of like pull it off, like you readjusting your walking stick, because oh, I'm old and indeterminate age, and I need a
I'm gotta
walking
get the
stick.
floors in here redone. It keeps getting stuck in the woodwork.
Yeah, so you tap it, and it pauses in the kitchen. And what is when you pause time? What does that smell like?
Just ozone and the aftermath of a fire. Just that kind of smoky scent in the air of someone burned a campfire here 3 hours ago.
And as that smell rolls through the kitchen, you see the space itself also takes on a little bit of a different tone. It kind of almost has a blue shift as it moves through the kitchen to pause time. And Wally and Maddie, you know full well this is Grandpa pausing time someplace to help you get things going or to figure out what's going on. And so it's actually helpful because one of the birds had started hopping out of the tray, so they're mid hop out of a tray as they get caught in this time pause.
You've got about 30 seconds or so to fix that. I'll go see if I can keep everyone out if you two want to deal with things.
Sorry, being interrupted by my actual familiar here for a sec.
Everyone loves a cat moment on stream.
Yep.
It's not an interruption, it's a bonus pet.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm not fully out of the kitchen yet, is what you're saying?
He said he's excluding you from the time pause, so if you wanted to go back into the kitchen to help, you would still be able to move around.
Oh, a hundo p. Hundo p.
Can I still not use magic to get dinner properly cooked?
Bring him back to cook status, please. Or I guess I could help too. You start.
I'm gonna go ahead and try. Being inspired a little bit by Grandpa, I'm going to try and roll time back just a couple of minutes for the pheasants, so they go back to the state they were in before.
Okay, so you're going to cast time magic within time magic.
Proud of you, Wally, taking the family tradition.
So since it's paused and you don't have anyone kind of spying on you, this is more going to be aptitude than with his, which was composure. So people don't see him do it. So just roll me aptitude to cast a time spell within a time spell.
Okay, that's a 5 on a D12, so not half the value.
Uh-oh.
Can I offer any assistance since time is my specialty and he's doing it within my loop?
You can help with the fallout before it becomes obvious to the non-magicals. Because it wasn't a terrible failure. It was a 5, not the worst that could have happened. But as Wally goes to try and take this very specific thing and kind of wind it back within this pause, and you start to rewind it, and the bird that's leaping out of the tray gets put back in the tray, and then there's some sort of glitching that happens, and then suddenly all the birds are on the floor and gobbling, somehow not stopped anymore while the rest of the kitchen is paused with you.
Oh no. Oh no.
They're just kind of pecking at the floor, looking for food.
Well, it was a good shot, Walford. But well, we've got a couple of seconds left, so it's time for some transmutation, I think.
Yeah. I have elemental magic, which is I'm just pulling it up so I can read it exactly and know what I'm saying. Minor elemental effects like changing a room's temperature or lighting a candle. Can I recook the birds?
Recooking the birds, you can try. You will need to roll for it, since it's not one of the listed things. You can attempt to cook a whole floor of birds if you want, but you will need to roll for it.
I think it's panic time. Let's go. Is that aptitude or?
Yes. So I will let you. It is probably going to be aptitude since you're trying to get your magic to kind of expand and cook probably a good couple dozen of these birds in one go without lighting your magical family's home on fire.
Don't mess this up for me. Oh boy. Hey Whitney, I hope your dice roll nice for me. Please. Thank you. 6 out of 8.
Okay, there you go. So you like
Thanks, Whitney.
What are you feeling in this moment? Like this, you guys have been in here not even 10 minutes and already things have gone off the tracks. Like, how are you feeling as you're like, oh gosh, I gotta cast this and cook these birds?
I mean, initially panic, right? It's the first thing. And then I think the second thing is that this isn't as bad as I thought it could have been. It's not the worst thing that could have happened. And so it's almost kind of relaxing to be able to pull on magic for this. It's like, I can cook birds. It's like, that's fine. No people that shouldn't know are right here in front of us. This is a net win. But the panic doesn't actually go away. It's still there. But the second thought that follows the initial gut reaction is more, okay, no one's dead yet. No one's seen something definitely not normal, technically.
And
this is okay.
You kind of like channel all of this panicking into your spell. Since sometimes it helps with elemental magic to kind of like reach into what you're feeling to get that. And you kind of produce it. It almost looks like a living fire that just kind of like rolls through these birds on the floor and around the island to like get all of them that are just kind of like hanging around. And what does that spell smell like?
I think it smells like rosemary. I think it actually smells like how it was supposed to smell, with just the twinges of like ginger. Like it's something that doesn't quite belong, but goes really well with it. But that's what the anxiety and panic smells like.
Okay, so as it rolls through here, it starts, kind of rolls through. Some of the birds try to run away from it, but get caught up in it. And now this whole room just smells of like roasting birds again somehow, and of your rosemary. So now you have cooked birds. Probably about a couple of centimeters off the floor because you all have time paused. And they had legs at one point, and then when they got roasted, they don't anymore.
They have the little chef's ties around their legs now.
You all have probably about 30 seconds to get these birds not all near the floor before Grandpa's time pause ends.
He's got to hobble his way over. I'll get the door, don't worry. I'll take care of that. Good work. It smells just like your Aunt Minnie did.
Is that what happened to Aunt Minnie? Did she get cooked? No, we don't have time. Let's go.
No. She's just overseas. She couldn't make it this year.
Trays.
Yep, trays underneath the birds so they fall into where they're supposed to be.
And time is back, and you hear just the drop of the birds into the trays. And it's right at that point that Debbie kind of like peeks her head. Like I would say it's one of those like swinging doors in the kitchen, and Debbie just kind of like peeks her head and is like, "Is everything okay in here?"
Our Walford just bumped into the catering station and nearly knocked the thing over. We've got it under control. We'll be out in a moment.
Okay. Are you sure I can't help with anything?
Oh no, absolutely.
We could use some more logs on the fire, I believe.
Okay. I'll make sure that gets done.
logs on the fire?
Well, yes, we have a fireplace.
Yes.
Underneath the portrait.
He'll be fine. I've already made him fire resistant.
Okay.
Besides, he's oil on canvas. He won't burn that easily.
We're just going to put everything back together. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. This is going to be beautiful. It's going to be fine.
I think I know what happened there, Walford. That's my bad. I rewrote the spell to turn them back the way Aunt Minnie had made them in 62. But they were supposed to be turkeys. The pheasants that wasn't my doing. They were supposed to bring turkeys. They ran out.
It's been a long time since 1662. You would think we could find a more modern recipe.
And it was fantastic. It was my favorite she's ever made.
And as you all are enjoying having solved this disaster, you do hear the crash of like shattering glass in the other room.
Oh, what now? And just start hobbling his way across out the door.
You have this, Wally?
I think so. And Wally's going to hang back for a minute and apologize to the pheasants one by one.
So out in the main room where like everyone has kind of like been, mingling and chatting, getting to know each other. Your favorite cousin, Abigail, is chatting Catalina up because she knows how important this is to you. And Cher and Pixie are kind of like running around their legs, all happy. It looks like, however, another one of the familiars has fully knocked over this like almost crystalline glass vase off the side table that it was on, holding probably violets or something onto the floor, and it has kind of shattered. And you come out right as Catalina is like bending down to pick Pixie up to make sure Pixie doesn't like go try to investigate and get in any of the glass. And she's just like, no, Pixie, like we need to get that cleaned up. We don't need you getting into it. We don't need a vet visit.
Well, everyone, keep your shoes on for a moment, or find them if you haven't. We'll get this cleaned up.
And as you're hoping Grandpa cleans it up normally, you realize you haven't seen Theodore in a while. Like, you've had little glimpses and heard the other in-laws talking, but you haven't seen Theodore in a while.
Kat, where's your grandpa?
Oh, he said something about wanting to like look at all the paintings or something.
The paintings? Okay. Does he need a tour? Some of them are kind of complex.
I mean, you know him. He was like an art professor. I think it's fine.
Oh, is that why he asked me about the portrait hall?
Yeah.
He should still be in there, Maddie, if you want to go find him.
Yeah. Do you need me to grab the broom first, or?
Oh, I'll get it. We have one shed laying around here. I can use the fireplace focus. That'll work.
And this portrait hall for you, Maddie, triggers in your mind a little bit of panic because you know the portrait hall is also one of the places that your family displays some of the magical artifacts you have gathered throughout the very long time that your family has existed. And you don't remember if you checked or not that the portrait hall was one of the places you guys kind of like laid down the protective spells so that they don't do magical stuff.
I'm gonna go do that right now. Abigail, do you think you can help Grandpa find the broom?
Yeah.
Wally's going to lean over to Maddie before she heads off. I think the portrait hall is off the upstairs hallway today. Downstairs yesterday, upstairs today. Yes.
I had it moved. I didn't want anyone wandering in there.
Yeah.
You see Catalina kind of gives a strange look because you all are talking about moving rooms from upstairs to downstairs.
Well, it's a hallway, you see.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want anyone going around, no offense to your family or anything, small children, grubby fingers, and all that.
We've been reorganizing the place to make room for all of you. It's perfectly normal.
Yeah, then you know how some of the really old houses are with the temperature control. It's not great for the paintings to always be in the same downstairs, very active hall. I'm gonna go by.
And as you do, you see kind of waddling out in front of you and kind of stopping you is a very familiar Barry the Platypus, who's your youngest cousin George's familiar. And he's trying to stop you and direct you to another door. But as a go this way in that thing, you need to go this way in that thing.
Thanks, Barry.
And you just kind of hear from behind you, wait, is that a platypus? As Jesse's kind of just is this another animal that's not supposed to be here?
New thing, bye.
I can tell you all about Barry. He's a wonderful addition to the household. Fantastic. Takes care of everything himself. Did she not mention our pedigree?
Oh, God.
No. And you know that your cousin George or Georgie is he still lives here, so he tries to keep Grandpa much in line as he can, which is why Barry's Grandpa is telling you wrong. This is the door you need to go into.
Completely forgetting about the glass on the floor. Well, you see, a couple of years ago, maybe a decade,
and you can see that Abigail is using that opportunity to sneak off and get a broom while Grandpa is distracted and not going to magically clean up.
I met this fine fellow named Erwin or some such, and we became good friends over a tea and some afternoon biscuits and whatnot. So I actually had him convert the land we are staying on here into a nature preserve. Of course, we can only have the animals within the house, limited space, and with the other manors nearby, of course, they don't want crossover, so they have to remain indoors. But it is, by all technicality and law, a nature preserve.
Right. You see kind of Jesse, typical kind of teenage boy, doesn't really get think you're telling him the truth, but he also knows he's at that age where he can't really openly question his own elders, much less the elders of someone else's family whose house he's visiting. And he's kind of oh, okay.
Have you not heard of this Erwin fellow? I thought he was fairly famous.
No. And as you go on this tirade, distracting Jesse and going on about Erwin, you enter into the portrait hallway, and you see that Grandpa Theodore is there in his tweed jacket, his nicest tweed jacket, his nicest holiday vest and bow tie with little Christmas trees and wreaths on it, and he's just kind of standing there. He's got a little bit of a stoop. And kind of shaggy, grayish white hair, and he's got his arms behind his back, kind of looking in closely at the paintings, but in that kind of I have my hands behind my back so I don't accidentally touch them kind of thing, but in that kind of art professor painter kind of where he's really examining the brush strokes and trying to see if he can spot the name of the artist and see if he recognizes it kind of deal.
Do I notice immediately any red flag paintings items right now?
You notice behind him on the opposite wall that he is looking at that some of the paintings have not stopped moving. They're playing through the scenes that they normally do. So there's a game of polo going on in one of them. There is a reenactment of painting the roses red going on in another one. There is one where there's a very lively game of poker or something going on. And it's still that very much freeze-framey motion of the one that it hangs over the fireplace in the main sitting area. And you can see they are not paying attention at all to the fact that someone is looking at paintings across the way of them. They haven't recognized it as someone they need to not do this in front of.
How are you doing, Professor? Seeing anything exciting?
Oh, yes. I actually recognize a few of these names. It's very interesting that you have early works from them, considering, they kind of died a little young, disappeared in really strange ways, actually. Take this one here, and he points to the picture in front of him, which is of a very almost Victorian age done up wealthy lady in that kind of typical sitting next to a table thing with the weird cat that doesn't quite look right or like a cat up batting at something in the corner and fruit on the table. This one here was supposed to have gone missing with the artist. This artist supposedly disappeared after visiting friends. Never heard from again.
Oh, any historical records of the friends?
If I remember correctly, and he's looking up and away from the portrait, trying to think, and you see the portrait kind of move and reach out and grab a piece of fruit and take a bite of it, and then you're doing all this while gesturing at her, and she's and tosses the fruit over her shoulder and goes back to position right as he looks back. If I remember correctly, whoa, some sort of fruit name. Apple, berry, melon. Oh, no, my memory is not as it once was. I'm not a young man anymore.
Oh, yeah, well, of course not. Grandpa, what did you do? But, there's so many works and friends of friends of friends of friends and recreations, of course. And I think you were telling me at one point that's what's part of the process was to make copies of the masters, right? Are you sure this is an original?
I mean, it would be very hard to mimic some of these colors, and he kind of stiffs and he leans forward, and he leans really, really, really close to the portrait where he can't really see any of it. He's just the bottom of it, and she's looking a little panically, and he's like, but this smells like, oh, what is that thing that Jesse drinks all the time? Oh, Mountain Dew. Yeah, I mean, I guess, if this was going to be I would hope it wouldn't smell like Mountain Dew. I don't know what your family uses to clean paintings. If you use Mountain Dew to clean them, you really shouldn't use Mountain Dew to clean these kinds of things.
It must just be a trick of the different paintings and in the space. It smells, evokes the smell. Could I interest you in maybe moving back? There's a couple of other pieces more located at the main floor that I think you'd be interested in. I don't think they're by long lost painters or anything like that, but
yeah, sure. And he goes to turn to start heading towards you, and you notice that the poker game or whatever has gone on has broken out into a full-on brawl. They are fighting. They had some sort of disagreement. The table's knocked over. It's fisticuffs. They are going at it.
Am I wrong in picturing the dogs playing poker and it's the dogs that are fighting now?
It is now.
It is now? And then this is directly in our path, huh?
It is direct, so he was facing this way. It is directly behind him in this portrait hallway. So him turning with all of this motion going on in the portraits is likely to catch his eye.
Actually, let's take another closer look at this one right here. It's perfectly normal and definitely not moving painting that has when would you describe this technique to create the cat's face? It has something, right? It's fancy.
Oh, well, a lot of these portraits from this time had cats in it, but they were not very good at the cat, as you can see. They almost remind me, and you recognize when an elder is about to ramble on and prattle on for a while, because you are well versed in that with your grandpa. And so he goes on almost like a art professor like lecture of like cats, and the style of them looking in these sorts of pictures is reminiscent of like the style of different creatures in illuminated manuscripts, and it just like keeps going.
While he's doing that, can I try and like distract the dogs fighting? Like, is there a painting that has like a bunch of steaks and bones or something that I can throw in and like kind of make them stop fighting?
There isn't, but you do see Barry the Platypus kind of walking by the open portrait hallway door, and it seems like he's walking on two legs and kind of like gnawing on something as he's like waddling past with his tail doing kind of like slappies behind him.
I love Barry the Platypus. He's the best. What is he chewing on?
It's you would like to say that it's probably meat or something. But Barry the Platypus is a kind of magical amalgamation of the creatures that make up a platypus rather than an actual platypus. So his diet is a little bit different than the natural platypus would be. And Georgie tends to keep him on a very strictly magical creature diet. So it's probably the thing that you banned Grandpa from having, which is phoenix meat, that he's gnawing on as he kind of like passes by.
They had it ordered. I had to do something with it.
It was gonna go bad if he didn't cook it that day. Can I try and snag some of it from Barry? Not all of it. He deserves a treat, but like a little bit.
I mean, you can certainly try. That would probably be, I would say, a reflex if you want to try and grab it from him, or if you want to convince him to do it.
Yeah.
I would say we'll put that under composure, because you're trying to like not yell at him and freak out on him and get some of this from him.
Believe it or not, my composure is better.
Chaos. I've not met this grandfather of her side of the family so far. He seems like an upstanding chap. He seems like the kind to know what he's doing about things.
7.
There you go. So you go over to him, and I am not going to attempt to do the sound that Barry the Platypus from Phineas and Ferb does. But that is the sound he gives to you. I'm not messing my vocal cords up on that one. We got a while to go. He just kind of like looks at you and makes that noise and just like kind of keeps chewing. And so how do you approach it with him to get some of this from him?
So I want to try and just like silently bargain. Mm-hmm. For a small amount, because it's a painting. Mm-hmm. So if it goes into a painting, it'll get bigger in my brain. I don't know if that's how it's going to work. But Blue's Clues only trained me so far, okay? And so I'm picturing I get just a little bit of it, and I put it in the painting, and then and Barry can have the rest of it, but just a little bit of it, and extra scritchies. Scritchies.
Well, Georgie doesn't like telepathically communicating with his familiar. He says it gives him a headache. So he's actually taught Barry the Platypus a version of magical sign language that his little webbed hands can do. And so, like, this piece of like phoenix steak is like hanging out of his bill, and he just starts sighting at you like to have this semi quiet conversation back and forth with this gesturing. And you kind of get that he's bargaining with you because he knows Georgie wants him on this very strict magical creature diet. But you also know that Barry is very much a mundane, like, treatsy familiar. And he's like, I will give you some of this and, like, bill's closed if you get me some of that German chocolate cake when desserts come out. And he, like, tears off, he uses a claw to tear off some of the steak and hands it up to you. And then, like, happily goes waddling down the hallway, finishing the rest of his
Remember to give the platypus cake. Write it in my notes. Okay, and I'm gonna just, like, I have magic. I can magic meat into the thing with the intent of stop fighting.
So are you casting a spell before you chuck this thing at the painting, or are you just chucking this thing at the painting and hoping that works?
I
gotta use the magic. It's the only way. I'm not gonna just thwap
right against it. Yes. So roll me aptitude, because magicking a physical thing into a painting is a little bit outside of your focus.
What? It's not part of elemental magic? Oh, that was a 1.
So you feel like you got this right. You feel like you've just magicked this thing ready, and you pull back and wind up and perfectly frisbee this thing as if to go into the painting. And you see that it catches the dog's attention from their fisticuffs on their hind legs that they were doing for a moment. And for a moment, you're like, I got this. I solved yet another problem. And then, and then the stake starts sliding down the portrait. And Theodore goes, what was that sound? And starts to turn around to investigate.
Mommy, would you mind checking on Maddie and Theodore? They seem to be taking a while.
Oh, Barry, your tail is so loud, buddy.
Theodore's like, why did you throw a steak at a painting?
It looked like it needed steak seasoning. Is that not how it works? You're the expert, not me.
He just like looks at you like very concerned. Like that kind of concerned look an adult gives you when you've said something so terribly wrong that he would think that everyone knew not to throw meat at a portrait. It's like very concerned for your well-being in this moment.
I think I need to go sit down. Would you escort me?
Yes, but shouldn't we have someone clean this portrait? Because meat juice, cooked or not, is not great for portraits.
Barry will take care of it, won't you, Barry?
This is a very strange portrait. And, like, the dogs have frozen for the moment, but the table is still knocked over and spilled. The dogs are on their hind legs. They were previously in fisticuff position, and now they're just kind of like at
oh my goodness. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so feeling so faint. I think I need some water. Will you help me? I'm not sure if I can manage those stairs by myself.
I mean, we're on the first floor, but sure, yes. Let's get you back in there, Catalina. And he gets you out into the hallway. And
Distract!
as he's shouting for Catalina like comes in the hallway and like sees him helping you and like brushes over and like, oh my god, are you okay? Is everything okay?
Yeah, I just got a little faint. Do you think you could get some water for me?
Yeah. Let's get her sit down first. Let's get her sit down. And like Catalina takes your other side, and Catalina and Theodore kind of like usher you back into the sitting room and get you in a chair. And And then Catlina kind of like rushes off to get you water from the kitchen.
Sorry to interrupt your lecture, Grandpa Theodore.
Oh, no, it's entirely okay. I'm just a little concerned about you. I mean, do you normally have these kind of fainting spells?
No, not normally. Usually I'm just in a lab, though. I think it's the different controlled environments of a lab versus an art museum, right? Maybe a little less humidity in an art museum than in my science lab.
He kind of gives you a look where he's like, I don't know. Well, I'm not a science person, so I wouldn't know how they set those things up. You know me, I'm all art.
And you're so good at it, too.
Oh, I don't know about that. I never became famous, but I did have fun teaching people to art.
I'm sure you have favorite stories.
And right as you all are having this conversation and Catlina is coming back from the kitchen with a glass of water, you normally would have remembered that right before you all start eating, like right before the appetizers are brought out, the familiars have this tradition of like the grand race, where all of the familiars get what can only amount to the super zoomies and like just blaze their way through all of the rooms in the house trying to see who's first back to the sitting room. And it's no hold bars. Like the sugar glider is like crawling up the walls and zooming around. Barry the platypus is like on all his little like four web feet, and Cher the Komodo is like skidding around, like doing some Tokyo drifting using their tail on the hardwood floor to like get around the curves really good.
And Kai is doing something similar, reaching out occasionally with a tentacle to make a sharp turn around a table leg. But nobody saw that.
You hear the sound of it starting, because it tends to start to end in the sitting room, but it tends to start in the upstairs. And you realize what's happening because you see no familiars in the room with you right now. But you hear the like cacophony of what is like amounts to a few couple dozen familiars all getting the super zoomies on the upstairs floor all at the same time.
Wally has been in the living room, meanwhile, trying to distract people, calm things down. He's currently working with some of the kids from mostly our family, but Jesse's welcome to join in if he wants to. Carefully, methodically building a tower of cards. Nobody breathe. It's almost done. It's just waiting for it to be completely destroyed by the race.
Yeah, and so you hear the cacophony of hooves, claws, paws, all sorts of things on the hardwood floor upstairs in the far back room, and you can kind of gauge where it is in the house from that cacophony. You probably have a minute before they reach the stairs to all come like stampeding down to finish the first floor circuit of their little familiar race.
I'll see what I can do about this if you want to. It's up to you if you want to deal with them.
Grandpa, help.
Catalina's handing you this glass of water. She made sure there's a lemon slice in there because she knows that's like how you prefer your water, with a little ice and a lemon slice. And she's like, "Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you sure?"
Yeah, It's just a lot. It's a lot. Thank you.
And you could almost see her like getting ready to click over to doctor mode to like start making sure you're like actually okay and not doing your whole like it's fine, this is fine.
This is all I needed. Thank you.
Okay. I'll see if I can get them to put the appetizers out a little earlier. You might just need some food. You didn't have anything this morning before we left?
You're right, I didn't. Before you head that way, Grandpa?
Hold on, Madrigal. I'll get something in a moment. Just forgot something upstairs and just start heading up to where the sound's coming from. Just hobbling up one step at a time with the assistance of his staff. Can't use the magic to get up the stairs. Oh, manually.
So
to the top where he knows everything's going to come running towards him.
By the time you get to the top, Grandpa, you are staring down the barrel of the main hallway on the second floor, and just turning into that main hallway are the dozens of familiars in their various forms getting ready to full barrel down towards you. And you know that there is no mundane, normal way to keep them from one, barreling you over, and two, barreling down these steps in what amounts to just chaos into the first floor. So what are you going to do faced with this?
He's going to let out a breath. Progressant, you know what we have to do now. Behave. You'll get your treat afterwards. Just kind of talking to the head of his staff as it looks back up to him. The benefit of having a familiar that doesn't have legs is he doesn't get involved in this sort of nonsense. He behaves. Just kind of takes the staff up into two hands, raises it up overhead. You shall not! And just slams it down, yelling at these things as loud as possible. Just trying to boom his voice out down the hallway just through sheer force of will to get them all to stop. Something he has done many a times in the past.
Okay. I'm assuming you're using this as kind of like a magical command to like get the animal. Okay. Roll me with aptitude then. This is you trying to magically command not your own familiar, because he's chilling out as the lion head of your walking stick, but everyone else's familiars.
All need to keep your children and pets in line, I swear. That's going to be a 9 on the die.
There you go. So you have this moment where some might say reflects mundane fiction as you slam down your walking stick, and your words seem to carry more power, more command in it, with your spell as it kind of like rolls out. And you can see that it reaches them up while they're about halfway down this hallway. So they do try and stop. But I will say they will stop before they get to you because you rolled the 9. But anything that's breakable in this hallway is probably getting broken in their attempts to like try and stop their forward momentum. Especially as those in the back of the pack kind of like hit those in the front who have stopped to try and also stop. I will say on the first floor, you do hear the cacophony of the race stop. However, you also did hear your grandpa essentially say, "You shall not pass!" and a big thunk from the cane. And you see Stephanie and Jesse kind of like looking to where the stairs are. Being like, what?
Just barely like the top of his head is barely visible over the banister.
Yeah. Like, what the heck is going on?
This guy starts walking down the hall towards the animals, raising the staff up and shaking. Now you listen here, you miscreants. We told you that this was a special gathering, and you were supposed to be behaving yourselves. Now, if no one wants to get any treats, you'll go running down the hallway again. But if you actually want to get yourself some treats from the table this time, you'll actually behave yourselves, go down calmly with your owners, and maybe then you'll get permission to enter the kitchen. Otherwise, Grandpa's gonna have to change the wards again.
You know that like look that your animal gets when they realize they've done something very bad, whether you chastise them or not, and they're like, oh, and they get that like really sad kind of like, I'm so sorry. Look, every single one of the familiars has it, which looks a little odd on some of them, like, because there's like a Komodo that's now on its hind legs, balanced on its tail, and kind of like has its head down and is doing like sad lickies of its tongue, like, I'm so sorry. And there's Barry the platypus, who just like is already really close to the ground because platypuses don't have long legs and they run on all fours. And so he can't really put his head down any more than it already is, but just gotta, sadly walks past you. All of them do. Even Pixie, who you realized was not with Catalina like you thought she was. You see her kind of like gingerly patting down the steps and kind of like comes to you and does that like, I'm so sorry, forgive me, like side rubby thing. And Wally, your totally normal cat also comes and does this, although for those really paying attention, there seems to be like suction-y sounds as they reach up to kind of like give you kind of like needy stretchy claws as kind of like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, when a cat does the great big sorrowful eye thing, it's a little bit disturbing when the eyes actually do get bigger.
And definitely blinked the wrong way too for a moment. So all of the familiars have been properly chastised. The familiar race has stopped before anyone has observed it. And all of the familiars seem demure for the moment.
And you all behave, you'll all get your share of Phoenix. I have extra on order. And for those of you that don't enjoy the meat, I have some mandrake going in the backyard. We'll have that for you after supper.
And you see Jesse kind of like looking confused again at your grandpa, and he's just like, Phoenixes aren't real.
It's the brand of food that we order for the conservation.
Okay. That like very skeptical teenager like look at you.
Just start hobbling down the stairs again. Now all of you can follow me down here calmly.
They try to follow you as calmly as possible. However, they are a large group of various animals who possibly can and cannot manage the stairs in a smooth manner. Particularly Cher just kind of like slides down the stairs
thunk, thunk, thunk,
rather than being able to walk. But yes,
I had to take the ramp out. They told me it wasn't supposed to be there with the stairs. And sorry.
So when Grandpa bellowed a few moments ago, everybody jumped, including everybody in the living room. So the Tower of Cards is no longer a thing. Wally kind of realizes what's starting to happen, and he gathers up the cards and starts doing some traditional regular world kind of magic tricks, card trick kind of stuff that's almost physically possible. and maybe using just a little bit of magic to make sure that everybody is really focusing and paying attention and not paying attention to the cavalcade coming down the stairs.
What does your various little attempts to keep attention smell like as you're casting these?
Ooh. I want to say after dinner mints. I'm not sure why, but
little pops of after dinner mints. You do know, thankfully, there's probably a little bit of a distraction coming because right after your normal, familiar romp through the house is appetizers. So there will be some food to distract people, and possibly kind of like redirect. Already your cousins and your other family, Astromelon family members are kind of like moving through the sitting room into kind of like the more dining room area. No one's really taking seats yet, but they are kind of all moving in that area since the appetizers will start to kind of like lead us into the main course and the dinner. I will say, just to see who spots what's going on as everyone is moving through the spaces to get to the dining room, I am going to have everyone roll me an instinct, just to see if you can pick up on something before something happens without giving too much away.
That's a 4.
12!
That's a 5 on a D8.
Awesome. So good for Maddie. Questionable for Maddie since Grandpa also spots it. You notice as everyone's moving through the sitting room to get into the dining room, you are too, like you and Kathleen are getting up. You notice that Jesse has been like sitting kind of like cross-legged with, almost with his knees like really close to like hugging, and staring at the flames in the fireplace. And as you're like checking in on him, especially Maddie, because you are an elemental, like that's your dig. You, as he's staring very intently in the flames, you start seeing like actual shapes, like almost kind of like, how people do those like shadow shows on the wall, but instead of shadow, it's flames, but it's not long enough to really like, so it's not there long enough to be like, oh my gosh, this is happening. It's there and gone. So it's like, maybe you're imagining things, seeing faces and places kind of deal, but it's continuing to happen as he's like staring very intently into this fire. And then Catalina's like, come on, Jesse, everyone's getting to the table. And he like gets distracted and is like, huh? And the flames that had been doing these shapes seem to like almost shift and go back to being normal, as he gets up and heads into the dining room with everyone else. So you notice this. Grandpa also notices this. And Maddie, since you rolled pretty well, you clock that Grandpa also clocks this.
Kind of give her a brief nod to the fireplace and just, all right, everyone, let's get into the kitchen. Waldorf, would you help me get everything plated up and ready? Beatrix is running a bit late. She should be here by that time we sit down to eat proper.
Well, hey, Grandpa, and I'm good to help out.
So the appetizers for the dinner, amuse bouches, the gray stuff, which is delicious. Just tons of little like finger foods, and fun things.
None that are actual fingers, right?
Not this year.
You hope.
One.
Oh boy.
There are some sausage rolls that look a little sus that you try to make sure is like on the other side of the table from where the in-laws are sitting. But everyone's like kind of informally finding their places. Abigail sits across from you and Catalina, because it seems like her and Catalina have really hit it off. Georgie is sitting down a little further, like next to Jesse. Stephanie has weirdly made friends with who I can only describe as the most goth looking of your cousins. Like, we're talking like stereotypical cartoon goth.
Trad
like,
goth, yeah.
Monochromatic, hair over one eye, studded collar.
She goes by Thursday, right?
Yeah, yeah, totally Thursday. And you're like, you kind of like tilt your head because like Stephanie is definitely more like the cheerleader, bubblegum pop kind of person, but her and this cousin seem to just be like having almost kind of like this lively debate. And you're not close enough to hear what they're debating about, but they seem like really into the debate. And it's not like a debate in like, it's more like the fun kind of debate, like the like, someone can actually match wits with me kind of debate. And Debbie kind of sits on your other side with Catalina, obviously sitting next to you two. And your grandpa-in-law Theodore kind of like hobbles into the room and kind of sits more down on one end where the older generation seems to have aligned themselves, a couple seats from where Grandpa has sat at the head of the table.
No, Theodore, come down here, sir. You guest in my home. You take the head of the table.
Oh no!
Waiting for my dear wife to show up anyway. She's running a bit late this evening.
I couldn't do that.
No, I insist. Best seat in the house. You can talk to everyone.
Yeah.
Or at least see everyone for the most part.
How about this? I'll sit in the seat next to you. Because I actually have some questions about the portraits and the portrait. And he like sits down and gets up and moves to the seat to your right to talk to you.
Perfectly fine. Just kind of gesture over to the right and just that'll be Beatrix's seat there when she arrives.
And so everyone's kind of getting into these talks. Everyone's kind of mingling. For the moment, it seems like it's going pretty well.
Well, he's perfectly normal cat with perfectly normal cat-sized eyes, curled up on his lap, and
the various familiars, having been properly chastised, are not currently begging for food, but have arraigned themselves under the table to kind of like be sitting near or with their peoples. Share occasionally. You could see like a tongue flick out from under the table, from where they're sitting. Some of them
enough to wait till we finish eating.
Yes,
then they can beg.
They are very kind of patiently waiting for everything. And this is probably a good point before anything disastrous happens, or anything disastrous the chat wants to add in addition to the disastrous things I have planned. Which, if you do, please. Make it happen. $50 donation for any magical disaster that you want to happen. We are probably going to go ahead at this point and take a little bit of a break because we're at a good midway stopping point. But before we do, I'm going to give a reminder now and a reminder when we get back. If you want to cause more chaos with this already chaotic family gathering, you can donate to make those things happen. $1. You can give a player of your choice a +2 or a -2 to their next ability roll. $2, you can determine what the next spell smells like, because that's a quirky thing with this family, is all their spells smell like something. $5, you can give the next spell a mind of its own, so it does something it's not supposed to. It takes on a little sentience, however you want to flavor that. $10, you can create a familiar to add, because we have a good 24 plus members at this dinner that you can add some familiars to, as we already have with Share the Komodo Dragon and Bury the Platypus. For $15, you can add in an in-law family member who maybe is arriving late to the party to throw an additional wrench into the plans. For $20, you can create a magical nonsense issue that the house creates, because the house itself is also a magical being with a little bit of sentience who likes to, make things a little wibbly wobbly on the inside. As you might have noticed with the portrait hallway being moved from the upstairs to the downstairs upon request. Or $50 if you just want to add the biggest magical disaster you can possibly think of that these three have to deal with. So if you would like to do any of those things, please donate. We've dropped the donation link in the chat, and I'll also go over those again as a reminder when we get back. But we will see you all in a little bit, and see how our players do surviving at the dinner table itself.
What could possibly go wrong?
Oh, so very much.
Welcome back, everyone. If you joined us for the first half, you know that our players have managed to keep things from the Mundanes by the skin of their teeth. And as I said before we went to break, I just want to give another reminder that if you would like to add more chaos to the second half of this game for our players to have to deal with now that everyone is all in one location together and no one can escape, you may do so through donations. If you donate $1, you can give a player of your choice a +2 or a -2 on their next ability roll if you want to add in a little bit of chaos there. For $2, you can determine what the next spell smells like, as it's a fun little quirk of the family that all of their spells come with smells. For $5, you can give the next spell a mind of its own. You can have it do something that's not supposed to, have a little sentience, or add a little extra effect to it. For $10, you can create a familiar, as every member of this family does, in fact, have a familiar. And we have seen those magical creations in the form of Share the Komodo and Bury the Platypus. For $15, you can create an in-law family member that's maybe showing up late to things, because we all have that family member that shows up late to all of the holiday events and things happening. For $20, you can create a magical nonsense issue in the house, because the house itself is magical and a little sentient, and has some wibbly wobbly weird stuff going on, especially since the head of the house does little timey-wimey things. Little inside thing for those who get it. For $50, you can create an entire magical disaster that these 3 lovely people have to try and deal with without giving the game away that they are in fact magical. So with all of that out of the way, I also just wanted to give a shout out to who is quickly becoming my personal hero for this stream, because they've added so much fun stuff for me to have to bestow upon the players. And I just wanted to shout out Abigail, because we have seen many things come in from Abigail to spice up the life of our of our players. Yeah, this is the stage of being that I'm in. I've finished an entire energy drink, so y'all are gonna get just like puns and things just woven in through everything at this point. So getting back into it, everyone is gathered around this massive dining room table. All of the familiars are under, trying patiently to wait while everyone is laughing, having drinks, eating appetizers, that you're not quite sure how they got on the table, but they did.
Don't worry about it.
Thankfully, the in-laws didn't enter until towards the end of the crowd, so they just kind of assumed people had put them out. Everyone's having a good time and chatting. You do, Maddie, kind of start catching that some of your family members like go to do what they normally do at this, like to like try and like lift up a tray to get closer to get it, and then like make eye contact with you, and like instead lean forward and grab that tray to get the thing that they want. Like they're all just kind of like looking at you and be like, right, no magic, and doing the thing. As everyone is kind of settling in and having all of this, you hear kind of like the sound of like not quite Christmas bells, but definitely like tinkling bells and like a joyous sound. You all know this sound. This is what precedes Beatrice, which is grandma in this case. And she just kind of like swans in through the front door. She's definitely layered in silks, like that kind of grandma, big chunky jewelry. And it's just like, oh, I hope I'm not late for anything. Oh, kisses, and like goes down the lines with all the family members. She does stop at you, Maddie, since Debbie is to one side of you and Catlita is to the other. She goes, These must be the in-laws that we were hearing so much about. Kisses, and like does the cheek kisses with you, and then gives Debbie like cheek kisses and Catlina cheek kisses. And suddenly somehow there's like an extra space next to Catlina. She like kind of like swans into it because she very much wants to chat for a moment with you and Catlina and Debbie before she goes off down to her normal spot down by Grandpa. She's just like, I hear that you are a doctor, darling. It's so nice to finally have a doctor on the family. You know, like Maddie, bless her heart, has chosen very well who to bring into this family. It's just so lovely. So you're so good. I just want to eat you up. And she like pinches Catlina's cheeks. And Catlina's very much like, you know how when someone has such a strong personality that you don't know what to do, so you're just gonna like freeze and go along with whatever. Catlina is definitely at that point and is just like fully trying to take in Grandma with it.
And nudge Theodore. Lovely, isn't she? Such a doll.
Oh yes, definitely a presence with her. And actually, as she's talking with Catlina, and this chair has appeared, you kind of wafting up from the floor get the smell of like peppermint patties from the magic that she's cast. It definitely takes you back to your childhood. And also weirdly, you slowly see raising up from the floor kind of like a circle around the chair that rises. There's a couple of them, seem to be like smoke rings. They're like light enough where maybe in the lighting you could miss them, but they come up from the floor as if from nowhere, circling the chair, and Beatrice, and she's just happily chatting away with Catlina and Debbie, and then they just kind of like hang over the chair, and then like another one comes up and bursts the first one, hangs over the chair for a little bit, as she's just talking, and you see like Debbie kind of sits back and is like giving a little bit of like a weird look where like you think maybe she spotted the like smoke rings and is like questioning what's going on here.
Grandma, so lovely that you could make. What took you so long? Oh my goodness! Oh, I love the outfit you're wearing, and just kind of like fluttering the hands a lot to try and move the air as much as possible.
Oh, it takes a long time to get this kind of level of perfection. Also, business doesn't stop for the holidays, at least not for me. So, I had a few, and she, like, looks at Catlina and Debbie and looks at you. Tinctures to deliver before I return from the festivities.
All right, you and your tinctures.
Yes.
We're so glad you could make it, though.
Yeah.
You've met Kat's mom, Debbie?
Oh, but I've just met her. So lovely to meet you. And, like, reaches over you and Catlina to, like, take Debbie's hand and, like, and shakes it. I hear you're a fan of true crime podcasts. I dabble in true crime myself. And she's got that look where, like, you're not sure if she means she dabbled in following true crime like Debbie does, or perhaps she dabbles in the true crime itself.
She is the true crime.
Beatrice, behave!
Oh, darling, it's perfectly fine. And she's chatting along with you. You do, at this point, hear the doorbell go off. And there's, like, a moment where someone's, like, waiting to see if someone's coming to the door, and then, like, another, like, tentative doorbell.
Waldorf, would you be a dear?
Go and see who's actually being polite about arriving.
And while Waldorf is moving to the thing, Beatrice and Debbie are in a very detailed discussion about something, a true crime podcast that Debbie listened to recently. But Beatrice seems to have like a little bit too much knowledge for your comfort about it as Waldorf gets to the door. And as you open the door, standing in front of you, you like have to blink for a moment because it's very like jarring. Is almost like a younger man's attempt to look like your grandpa, but like someone who had like a vague description, like off-brand version of what your grandpa looks like. He's like trying to grow out his beard, but it's like kind of scraggly and not quite there. He does have very long hair. Where your grandpa is now wearing a different hat somehow. No one's quite sure how. He is in fact wearing what amounts to like almost like a combination of like a top hat and a wizard's hat at the same time. And he's very like dressed to the nines. Underneath this very gaudy like billowing cape thing, like he's tried to put on his nice clothes and then put the cape over his nice clothes. And he's like, "Oh, hi. I hope I'm not too terribly late. Debbie said that is this the dress? Is this the astronaut's?"
Oh, I do apologize. You reminded me of my uncle for a moment there. Come meet everyone. And as we're coming in, I'm going to follow behind and use a little bit of illusion magic so that he doesn't look quite so uncannily like Grandpa. Or at least I'm going to try to.
And as he's coming into the main foyer, like he's taking off this big, like billowing cloak thing. He's like, "I'm so sorry that I'm late. I thought the subway was going to be on time. I apologize terribly. Catlina is going to give me an earful for being late. I'm Eugene. Sorry, I forgot that pleasantry. I'm Eugene the Magnificent." I think like shakes your hand.
You certainly are.
And tries to bow at the same time.
Oh, you dabble in prestidigitation and an illusion. That was dabbling myself earlier this evening. Come meet everyone.
And before I forget, and he, to your trained, actually magical eye, clumsily does some like sleight of hand trickery to like produce a bottle of wine. He's like, "For the table. I did not want to come empty-handed, especially since I was running late to the festivities, as it was."
I think Wally gets just a little bit out over his skis, and produces in what's supposed to be a stage illusion kind of way, but isn't quite physically possible. Ice bucket for the wine to go into.
And you see his face kind of like brighten up. He's like, "Oh, are you also up into close-up magic?"
I dabble. I like to entertain the nieces and nephews and various nibblings. I do apologize. Wally.
He looks like a kid who just got everything that they could possibly want for Christmas.
and Wally is just thinking, the one person who I can actually do a little bit of magic around who isn't immediately going to think this is weird. He's just going to say, "How did you do that?" But be too polite to ask. New best friend.
And he's just like chatting with you. And as he's chatting and you guys are moving back through the space to join the rest of everyone in the dining room, he kind of like sleight of hands a deck into his hand, and he just does the kind of like air shuffle thing to the other hand and then back again and starts cutting it. And he's like, I'm so happy. Everyone on my side of the family is not as open to my chosen profession. They don't think I should have dropped out of Harvard and became a close-up magician.
Well, I think it's a wonderful thing.
Fine, Theodore. I don't know why. I'm suddenly unimaginably upset for some reason.
And as they're having this discussion, Eugene the Magnificent and Uncle Wally enter into the dining room having this like in-depth close-up magic discussion. And you can see immediately Debbie like shoots daggers at Eugene and it's like, and kind of like,
sorry, your sound dropped out for a second there.
She kind of was just like, oh my god, I can't believe like he came in his outfit for work, his stage outfit. I told him to change before he came. Oh my god. And like unintentionally draws Beatrice's attention to Uncle Wally and Eugene the Magnificent. And she's like, who is that? and draws kind of like the rest of the table's attention immediately to the pair entering. And he kind of like, Eugene kind of like freezes at the entrance as he realizes like all of these eyes have turned to be on him. And you can see there's like, Maddie, you know Eugene, like he's definitely the black sheep of the family because, you know, as he stated, he decided to drop out of Harvard to pursue a life on the stage. At this point in time, as a close-up magician, he's tried various things in his stage career, but it's very much into up-close magic right now. But you notice this look. He's had it at several events that you and Catlina have thrown, that Catlina has invited him to, because she loves Eugene, despite the fact that he very much is the black sheep of the family. And so you notice this look that he has this internal conflict of, there are all these eyes on me now. I was told to be good. However, eyes on me makes this a stage. So clearly I should do a little something. And you see him having like this internal like fight in himself, deciding in this moment if he's going to perform some of his up close magic as
he's still dressed as me.
Oh yeah. But the only thing he's taken off is kind of like that big billowy cloak. It's now kind of laid over his arm. But he still has that like top hat, wizard hat combo. He doesn't have as full of a beard as you. His is like scraggly and trying to come in, but he does have long hair that kind of matches your length. And he's dressed to the nines, like trying to. But you can tell that the big folded over cloak that's in his arms is very similar to the one that you yourself are wearing.
Yeah, he looked more like you at the door, but a little bit of illusion magic. It's not quite so much Uncanny Valley.
I think Grandpa actively in this moment needs to roll a composure check.
Go ahead, roll me a composure check.
Keep it together,
that's
Grandpa.
3.
Oh no.
That's
yeah.
3. That's halfway.
Okay.
So I don't think you're entirely able to keep a poker face. But there isn't any like j'accuse going on.
He kind of leans over to Theodore and just, who's this clown? And not like lowering his voice, just full audibly at the far end of the table. Just, who is this clown?
Theodore kind of gives that very patented, like grandfather disappointed sigh, and goes, "That's Eugene. He's family. His mother and father live on the other side of the country, so he often joins us for events. Yeah, he's recently into up close magic on the stage.
So he doesn't have a job, is what you're saying.
Yeah, kind of exactly what I'm saying, yes. In like the most politest way possible. And also he's mashing you, like he's not lowering his voice at all. He's having this discussion with you about Eugene. And Maddie and Wally, you can both see like he hears this and it clearly like deflates a little bit of his like happy Christmas child energy that he had when he met Wally, who was like also doing what he assumes is up close magic with him. And
Waldorf, dear, find our new person here a seat at the table. We're eating. No time for talk and trickery besides those beside you.
Eugene, how have you been? I think there's a seat over right across from us, over by
Right by me. Right
yeah.
And you can
the attention kind of turns back over toward Wally's seat, almost in time to catch a tentacle that reaches up and grabs something off his plate.
You can see he's a little defeated in this moment. But he's like trying to like put on a good face and kind of like pretend like it's not phasing him. But
critics and hecklers are everywhere. You know that.
Yeah. I mean, it's normal. I just didn't necessarily expect it at a family event. And he like quietly sits down and he kind of keeps to you, Uncle Wally, and Catlina and Maddie, because like he already knows Catlina and Maddie, and he knows like Catlina does try to get him to return to Harvard and finish his education. Hasn't been like the one to lecture him about his chosen path. She more says like he's a free spirit and that kind of thing. But he does kind of chat with you, Uncle Wally, about close-up magic, and then start like entertaining some of the like younger kids with some of his like card tricks, and he does the like find the queen and things like that with them to kind of entertain them. And it's starting to get a little bit of that kid at Christmas back, because the kids are like eating it up and loving it, but it's definitely a lot more demure for it. I did want to shout out real quickly that we did get $100 anonymous donation. And because I'm all about that, and also I'm all about the chaos. I'm going to cause 2 magical disasters at the same time.
Oh,
First
boy.
of all, how dare you? Second of all, thank you for the donation. You're supporting a great cause.
Thank you.
I'd like to echo that in reverse. First, thank you. Second, how dare you?
How dare you, and thank you.
No, the how dare you is specifically directed at Kayla.
So with all of this going on with Eugene, Catlina has noticed that her younger brother Jesse is not taking how they're treating Eugene very well. Jesse is like a huge fan of Eugene. And you can see that Jesse has been kind of like curling in on himself a little bit and is like kind of like stewing. And as he's stewing, you've already been kind of Maddie and Grandpa have already been keeping a little bit of an eye on Jesse because of what they saw before the dining room. But you see all of the candlelight that's in the room kind of get a little bit bigger and start bending towards Jesse.
I would like to try and use my elemental magic to make that less noticeable.
Yes, as he's stewing and they're growing towards him to kind of feeding off of his like stewing energy. So go ahead and roll me aptitude to try and lessen this a little bit. Because it is right on the border of starting to become very noticeable.
4 out of 8. So
Okay.
right in the halfway.
Right at the halfway. So I will say, like, you managed to, like, maybe get the most visible ones, the ones, like, on the table to kind of, like, chill out a little bit, but the ones kind of, like, on the peripheral of the room, they've chilled out a little bit, but you can see they're not growing, but they've, like, fully leaned in whatever direction Jesse's in.
That's really going to mess with the melting pattern of those candles.
Yep. And you could see, like, Jesse is just, like, sitting there stewing, like that kind of, like, stewing where, like, you want to say something to somebody because of what they said, but, like, you know, you're not supposed to, or, like, it's not your place, like, you're a guest, and, like, that kind of, like, if this was an anime or a cartoon, those, like, purpley, like, things would be coming off of him.
Could I try to help her out here just by, like, popping a window in the room open so that a breeze flows through and try to magic some of the candles a bit further?
Yeah, and with both of those, it calms it down enough to not be super noticeable, but, like, you see that members of your family are starting to clock that something's going on. Maybe not necessarily who's doing it, but that somebody's doing something magical.
This is the magical family is clocking
it? The magical family is, like, clocking, because you're trying to draw it back. Grandpa's doing something to try and, like, produce wind to kind of, like, calm it down. Like, so certain members of your family are starting to clock that somebody's doing something. But the room is just, like, full heavy of this smell of cinnamon. And not just, like cinnamon, but, like, cooked cinnamon, like the extra, like, almost too cinnamony cinnamon.
Are we going, like, craft fair in the fall?
Craft fair in the fall, a little bit on the border of, like, artificial big red cinnamon kind of, like, smell. And it's becoming, like, stronger the more that your magic and Grandpa's magic is fighting to keep the flames normal. And as these spells are kind of, like, all fighting with this unintentional thing that's going on, and this smell is infusing the room, you see Grandma Beatrice, like, pauses and, like, looks back at Grandpa and looks at you and kind of, like, cocks her head, and right as she's about to say something, you start hearing a bunch of, like, very quietly but, like, gaining in volume and varying, like, super loud, super quiet, just, like, overlapping meowing sounds. And they seem to all be, like, centered around these candlesticks that you all are fighting to kind of, like, keep normal. And it's just, like, a cacophony of all of this, like, varying volumes of meowing happening. And, like, everyone's now starting to, like, kind of, like, look around questioningly, like, look under the table and look under things like, where the fuck are all these cats?
Do I immediately clock, like, any cats from our menagerie?
I mean, there's Pixie, who's, like, kind of curled up between Catalina's feet, and Uncle Wally's cat, who's chilling by his chair. But you don't see any cats near any of the candles that are going kind of, like, loco right now.
Shoot.
Everyone's looking around.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Everyone's just kind of, like, looking around. The magical folks are picking up that something magically has gone wrong or is going weird. But even at this point, the in-laws are like, what is going on? What? Like, does anyone else hear that?
Wally leans back for just a second and looks at Kai curled up in his lap, who's actually being a very convincing cat at the moment. And as I understand it, I can speak to my familiar telepathically. So I say telepathically, just play along with it. And I start scolding Kai for making such a racket and you know and singing and caterwauling, and telepathically say, if you jump up on the table and run across it right now, I'll get you off the hook for the rest of the day.
He, like, for the moment gives you a look and he's like, Add fish to it.
Done.
He not only does he hop on the table, but he like dramatically rolls and yelling.
Kai, I'm so sorry, everyone.
Like making as much of a mess as he can, knocking things over and yelling and like making as much of a ruckus as he can.
I'm so sorry, everyone. He doesn't usually behave like this. Let me go put him in the bedroom and
Kai went to Juilliard.
Oh yeah. Where do you think I learned the performance side of the stage magic stuff?
And yeah, full on performance, knocking as much stuff over to cause as much attention, yelling to varying degrees because he's trying to like match the like varying volume of what's going on. And even as you pick him up, he kind of like throws himself over your shoulder, like.
I'd like to think that he grabs one of the pheasants on the way out.
Yeah, and like tries to grab it and it knocks it off the table and it's like, what was me? And tries to keep it up until he hears that the meows have like stopped, and then keeps it going for a little bit longer than that. And it's like, yeah. Meow. As you like carry him out.
Yep.
Kind of stands himself up from the table slowly and just pushes back up, leaning on the staff with both hands. And I'd like to apologize for that interruption, everyone. Wasn't exactly sure what's going on with Walford's pet there. Normally, it's quite fine behavior, you can tell from the rest of these fine fellows of ours. If you would, please enjoy your meals. I would like to announce, as this is our first chance at actual meeting here, I have procured gifts for everyone after dinner. Just a friendly greeting from the house, as it were.
I can see Maddie's panicking already.
Gifts? Oh no, I didn't tell them to bring gifts. They're going to feel obligated that they should have brought gifts, but they didn't bring gifts because this wasn't part of the plan.
This isn't anything that you should have been expecting. Maddie's quite the responsible sort, and I didn't want her having to make sure that all of you were taking care of things as well. This is a gift from Grandpa Eustachius to all of you. Welcome you into the family as our dear Madrigal and Kat have betrothed. It's fantastic to meet all of you, one and all.
And Kat kind of like nudges you and says, see, like, it's totally fine. It's all going fine. And as Grandpa has given his announcement, Grandma Beatrice has used this as her excuse to excuse herself and go to another response. She's like, oh, it's time to begin. And like flutters out of the chair somehow, which is no longer there. Spot is no longer there. Kathleen is right next to who she was before. And Beatrice kind of like floats over, like flutters almost movement wise. You hope she's actually on the floor, over to her spot next to Grandpa. And before she sits down, she goes, "Stop the dinner!" And you have a brief moment of panic on whether Grandpa told her she's not allowed to cast magic to do things.
Going to try and stop time. Just completely standing still, going to try and stop time. It is stopping for everyone except himself and Beatrice.
Okay. Go ahead and roll me aptitude to stop time for everyone but you and your dear wife.
That's a 10 on the die of my D12.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, you stop it for everyone just as the door to the kitchen is like this much like open. And you and Beatrice are at the far end of the table. You're at the perfect angle to see the fact that things are floating on their own, getting ready to come in to be served onto the table. And she's like, darling, why did you stop my grand entrance for the food?
Beatrix, dear.
Yeah.
You know Madrigal's family, well, extended family, aren't the magicking sort. And she doesn't want us exposing them to our world quite yet. She wants more time to adjust them into it. So...
But you're the younger generation. They never go into it. You just kind of have to shove them into the deep end.
I
Let
know,
them
but
figure it
you know
out.
how the Arcane are these days.
Oh, yeah. It's just around for the holidays and things, obviously. Like, Maddie cannot keep them away from us any longer. That girl getting eloping, not inviting any of us. This is so rude, by the way.
You know how she gets, dear. She worries over everything.
But you know what would
I'll take care of.
down her stress level? Not having to worry about keeping the secret from the in-laws anymore.
We'll get there eventually. You know how she is. She's been this way forever.
Ah, yes.
At least she's found one that she actually likes this time and for real.
I will say that Catalina has kind of like chilled Maddie out, because like she was very wound tight as a child.
Of course. I mean, but that's partially her mother's doing, but you know how that goes.
I mean, yeah, when you're time wizard like your father, and you know, you literally wind the time watches that the wizards use to stop time who can't do the time magic. Like, yeah, you're wound tight, you're like a clock. You know?
Of course. Why don't we remedy this? Your magic's already in effect. It's simple enough. Some seen rather than unseen servants of the sort. We'll dismiss them afterwards for the holiday early. Simple enough plan.
That's fine. Fine. But they're going to be in traditional garbs.
Oh, of course. And to make it up, you will waltz later once everyone's cleared out for the evening, as long as you wish.
Okay, that's fine. And as she claps, because it's still paused, you do see the trays go from being just floating. So they are in like the most impeccable butler outfit, like very traditional man in waiting butler, very crisp, clean suits, polished, shiny shoes. They all look strangely like identical. Like the same person, just kind of like copied and pasted for all of the things that are being brought out.
If they ask, we have very specific hiring standards in terms of who we bring in as staff.
Of course, I mean, look, you're in an outfit, I'm in an outfit, that wild Eugene they brought with them is in an outfit. We just say it's a family tradition.
We'll see if we can get him to distract the kids later. That way we can perhaps have a moment of peace and quiet with these people here.
Oh, I truly doubt that they be. I mean, I feel like the magical sugar hard candies are gonna make them all go a little local, but we can discuss that after dinner. And she like swans into her chair right as your time spell ends, and the door to the kitchen finishes opening, and the identical looking like butlers come in carrying all the trays and the food and the plates and everything.
Blake, Blevin, Bilford, Bill, thank you all for attending us this evening. Of course, you're all free to go. Once dinner's been served, we'll handle dessert ourselves.
And they
thank
move,
you again. Thank you.
Like beautiful choreography, like perfectly in sync with each other. They walk out of the kitchen, split off, and to go around all of the tables so that they're around everything, to give everyone their plates and to lay everything out perfectly in sync with each other, and to provide the adults with an adult beverage if they like, and the kids with a more kid-friendly juice or soda or something. But like all of their movements are in sync and like almost like they've done this a zillion times kind of choreography. And like
look down the table, give Maddie a brief wink.
and you see like your sister-in-law Stephanie is like really impressed by the like staff, and she like tries to talk to one to like kind of figure out what service they work for, to like maybe hire them for her 18th birthday, because that'd be totally rad. But they like do not change facial expressions, do not acknowledge that they've been heard or what she's saying or anything. And once they've laid out the food, they turn in perfect sync to reverse order back into the kitchen, with the door kind of swinging shut behind them.
Pardon, Stephanie. They're rather due diligent in their duties. They're not to speak when they're performing, as it were. Mm-hmm. I can get you the contact information once we're done for the evening, if you so wish. In fact, whenever you're having your 18th, I'll pay for the services myself.
Ooh, and you see she perks up at that, and Debbie has
so
this
much
of like, oh no, you should not have told me.
It's so generous, Grandpa, but maybe a bit extravagant for...
Oh. Maddie, dear, you've brought these fine people into our home, you and Kat. We'll treat them like family. They get the perks of being within the Astromelons.
And you can tell she's like rapidly texting someone. And Debbie kind of like touches your arm and leans into you and goes, "Don't worry, I'll talk to her after."
Thank you. Grandpa, he means well. It's just his generosity doesn't really have limits.
Yeah, I get that, but I mean, Stephanie's probably not the one to tell that she doesn't have limits.
Yeah. But she seems to be having a good time.
She does. Who is that young lady that she's talking to down there?
Thursday?
Mm-hmm.
Cousin Thursday.
And you realize that you yourself don't know where on the family tree or how in the family tree Thursday is connected to you. Thursday has just kind of always been there.
Actually, I think she came with the house. Just... Oh, well, there's... No. And then there was... But then she's family.
Well, I know that. But it's nice that Stephanie found someone to talk to. I was really worried that she wouldn't find anyone because she's kind of going through that phase where like nothing's cool.
Yeah, I remember that phase. Didn't really hit me at the same time, but I'm glad that she found someone to share, hopefully, a good time with.
And as you're kind of like trying to finish this conversation up, and everyone's kind of digging more into the food, you noticed that this food is like your grandparents' best attempt to do mundane. Not perfect. There's definitely some weirdness going on. There's like some pieces of like vegetables in the roast vegetable dish that like don't exist to the mundanes, and that like kind of have their own flavoring that matches whatever the eater, the consumer wants. There are some meat dishes that you're pretty sure aren't mundane meats in offering, although as promised Grandpa did not serve any phoenix, but there's probably some like manticore that you spot because it has a very like distinctive not necessarily coloring, but distinctive smell when roasted. Like
gamey.
Yeah, it's kind of close enough to maybe ham that you could maybe get away with calling it that. And then you can definitely spot things on the table that, like, if people paid too much close attention, they would know that it's not entirely copacetic. There's, like, something going on a little bit.
Keep the conversation flowing, keep the drinks going. Distract.
Off in the distance, there is a brief, low, rumbly kind of growl for a moment, and Maddie and Grandpa would probably know that Kai regularly insists on being rewarded with fish, and when he's rewarded with fish, his upper body turns into a miniature bear, and he goes at it. A couple minutes later, while he comes back to the table and rejoins the meal.
And I'm going to give everyone a chance to roll an instinct to maybe catch something that's about to happen before it becomes fully aware for the rest of the people at the table. as our second disaster strikes.
That's an 8 on the D10.
3 on a 12.
That's an 8 on a D8.
Oh, okay. So Uncle Wally and Grandpa definitely spot this. Maddie, you are busy trying to keep the dishes that you think are questionable away from Catlina and Debbie and like pouring drinks and distracting them with conversation. And like you gesture to Abigail, who like takes the like roasted Matacore and like manages to get it a little bit further down the table, but like dishes like turkey or pheasant or something for Catlina and Debbie to like distract them and talk with them. Wally and Grandpa, you notice that in the offerings on the table that Grandma Beatrice has had brought out, there is a rather large circular silver bowl dish that is still covered. It has, the dish itself is like, almost looks like pure silver, the bowl itself and the dish on top. And the bowl itself has all of these like etchings that you all would recognize as magical runes on it. You clock this as Grandma Beatrice's like famous holiday dish, which is definitely not mundane friendly. Beneath this dish lives literally a living dish that is like Grandma Beatrice's specialty because she does perform, she's what doesn't necessarily specialize in a whole lot of things, but she does love integrating magic into potions and things. That's what she does. She sells potions to help with looking youthful, to having a little extra luck, to getting a little extra money. And so her dish it's like a living thing, but you will know it not to be living because you'd be eating it. But it acts like a living thing. It acts like almost a marionetted like play when you take the top off that acts out a scene before presenting itself as this very luscious, very sweet, very like almost like carbonated, palate cleansing, cold dessert thing that she uses between the main dinner part, which can be very heavy, and the actual drinks and desserts part that happens later. But it is definitely not mundane friendly in any aspect of the word or situation.
Gonna clock up to Walford and just kind of give a nod towards it and eyes. Bring up a little wine glass and start to swirl it, clearly starting to cast some kind of spell on the wine that's in it.
Yeah, I have a feeling that that Waldorf would know what to do about it, but I am kind of drawing a blank. So we'll start with Grandpa and come back.
Kind of like makes a gesture of get everyone's eyes off of it.
So everyone, I would like to thank all of you for your tolerance with my animal. I'm still so embarrassed, but I'm delighted to see all of you from our side of the family and meet all of you from your side of the family.
I will say you did roll well. I will say you do in this moment also see an opportunity. It does come at the cost of Eugene, though. Eugene is still entertaining the kids. And he is producing paper flowers from his sleeve, and the kids are giggling. In this moment, you can cause a disaster to happen with his next close-up magical trick, and it will draw the attention of the room, but it will negatively affect Eugene in some way.
Wally looks from those paper flowers to one of the candles nearby and back again, and contemplates for a moment. Can't quite bring himself to do that to a fellow artist of the magical arts. So, Debbie, right? Can you tell us some stories about when Kat was young? I know Maddie did crazy things when she was a girl. Surely you have some stories in your side of the family.
Oh, I mean, I always knew Kat was going to be a doctor. I mean, she never could play with her dolls like normal kids do. She was always, seeing how they were doing car crashes and operating on them and, actually running a doctor's office with her toys, a sick bear, a stuffed elephant with a stuffed nose, that kind of, and she's talking with you. I would say you've definitely distracted Debbie. Lena is getting embarrassed, and so she's probably definitely distracted because she's trying to it's like, Mom, Mom. Stephanie is not as super distracted, because she's a little further away. And I think that Jessie is probably right on the cusp of clocking that something's going on, but not quite there yet. Theodore is fully distracted by this, he's gotten in this very in-depth conversation on the place of jewelry and silks and things within art itself with Grandma Beatrix. The history of it and how has it been displayed in art through time and things like that. And like I said, Eugene is doing the magic show for the kids still and keeping them entertained.
Grandpa will pull himself up and just kind of pat Theodore on the shoulder. Just a moment, I need to check with Thursday on something a moment, and start heading his way down towards where this bowl is located and her.
Yeah, and Grandpa, as the oldest member of the family, as what would be considered the head of the house, you and Grandma Beatrix know a little bit more about the house than most members of your family do. Thursday, while considered part of your family, doesn't have any blood connection to you, but seems to be more connected to the house. Thursday appeared when the house appeared. You're not, you yourself, this house has been around even longer than you have. So you yourself aren't sure if someone made the house, if someone bought the house, if the house was just there and someone found the house. But you do know that while you are considered the oldest member of the family, Lucy's actually technically older than you, but also younger than you at the same time.
She got the benefit of her age locking in early.
Yeah, and she kind of clocks that you're heading this way, and is kind of tilts her head as she continues her conversation with Stephanie.
Just makes his way over. Pardon me, Stephanie, Thursday, if I might ask you a brief question.
Yeah, of course. And she kind of excuses herself and is like, what can I do? And kind of gets what you're going for and kind of moves you off a little bit and what can I do to help, Grandpa?
She just waits for her to stand up and just, oh, well, it's just been ages since we actually got a chance to see you around the table. It's just been nice, and kind of leans in to get a hug and just kind of speaks slowly. I know you love the house, and you've been here longer than even I. If you can make that dish in the center that Miss dear Beatrix worked so hard on, we'll enjoy it afterwards, but I'll see what I can do about upkeeping whatever you may wish to be added to the home. If you could assist us in this. We just don't want to draw any attention, as it were, right now.
Mm-hmm. And you see she kind of like looks over her shoulder at where the bowl is located. And I will say, yeah, I will say this will work. Or she will see if it works. She kind of looks and she sees where the bowl is placed. The two people on either side of the table are both Astromelon family members. So she kind of like looks at them, looks at you, and she's like, if you could like get them to look away from the table, I could definitely take care of it. But then we'll have to find Janice and Stanley because I'm not sure where in the house they'll pop up.
We can deal with that. They've not been interacting too much with the rest of the family anyway, keeping to themselves for the most part for the evening.
Okay.
I'll take care of that if you can manage it. Much thanks, of course.
Of course, Grandpa. And she kind of like goes back to like Stephanie, but you see she's like angled herself where she can see that part of the table, but still kind of like talk and engage Stephanie to keep her from paying attention to that part of the table.
While he knows that the we need a distraction look a mile away, he's going to being slightly rude as opposed to asking somebody to pass him the mashed potatoes. He's going to reach for himself and accidentally knock over the candle.
Now, is this just letting the camel do its normal thing, or do you want to add a little oomph to it so that it like really does something to get everyone's attention?
I don't need a major effect, but I'd like it to look like the tablecloth is going to potentially go up in flames.
Okay. Do you want it actually? Yeah. Do you want it actually to like you were doing elemental, or do you want it to look like it, like you were adding a little illusion to it?
Let's go with illusion for now. We need a distraction. We don't need insurance for that case.
Yeah. So go ahead. Go ahead and roll me aptitude to just see if you can pull this off enough to draw the attention needed towards you and away from this bowl.
I've dueled many a wizard, but none more fierce than the insurance adjusters.
So the good news is that I have a D12 in aptitude. The bad news is that I rolled a 2.
Oh gosh.
Oh no.
So I would say you knocked the candle over. You thought you laid down an illusion to make it look like it is catching. But you forgot that the flames have been doing weirdness because of Jesse.
Mm-hmm.
And so the tablecloth where you are, not only does it catch fire like it's the driest kindling ever, there's like a line of fire that starts making its way down the table towards Jesse like it's searching him out. Everyone is distracted. That is another issue we'll have to deal with. But as you do, everyone is paying attention to the active fire going on.
Can I try to snatch Jesse back from the table before it gets to him?
Yes, we will see if you can do that in time with your reflexes. As it does travel down and you all do notice this new disaster happening, you do hear the sound of like two boards of wood like clacking together. And Grandpa, you would notice that the bowl that has Grandma Beatrice's dessert is not there anymore, but neither is, again, Janice and Stanley. There are spots the table has seemed to just like fold in on itself. So them and the bowl don't exist at the table anymore. And somewhere distantly in the house, you hear almost a thud sound of like something heavy being dropped.
As he's rushing by Thursday, just a hand extended behind him for a quick low 5.
She gives you like the low 5. But yeah, now you have this new disaster.
Oh boy.
And this trying on pure reflex, just a minor time manipulation of making himself arrive where he is going to be faster.
Mm-hmm. I will say to act in time because this fire is moving like it's on fire.
On mission.
Yeah.
I'm going for reflex.
Yeah, I would ask you to roll reflex to see if you can get there in time because you gotta get to him before it gets to him.
Grandpa's surprisingly spry for his age.
I will say, Nicola did give everyone a +2 to the next roll, so you can add a +2 to this.
Well, that's gonna be good because that's a 5 on the die, which that +2 makes a 7 on my D10.
Woo!
Gets me that success.
So you all have not seen Grandpa go from my everything hurts leaning on my familiar and cane-like staff to just booking it down somewhere in a while. But not only is he moving fast, he kind of just like manages to do a little bit of time wibbly wobbly to not necessarily pause it, but give himself a little bit more space to get to Jesse and yank him back from the table before the flame reaches his spot. And it
pulled back with me and let out a gasp and, oh dear, well someone must have spilled some wine earlier or something. Dear, I'm sorry about that, Jesse.
Yeah, and
really
it fully
awful.
like circles his plate and is like eating his spot like it's searching for him. Right as
are you alright? You're not burned or anything, are you?
And he's like hyperventilating a little bit. But also like while he's hyperventilating, his eye line is like dead set on this fire. Like he is fully entranced by this fire, and he almost seems to be like leaning towards it a little bit, and it seems to be like reaching up to him a little bit. Right as Abigail comes bursting in from the kitchen and just shooting fire extinguisher all over the table.
Best cousin. Best cousin.
Just gonna grab the top of Jesse's head and just kind of like bring it into his chest in a very large, like all you can see is my beard grandpa hug, and just kind of pat him on the butt and just there, son. Nothing to worry about. You're all safe now. We'll get this taken care of. Everyone, if you're finished with your meal, if you could please to the sitting room. We'll get this cleaned up before dessert's served. Unfortunately, most of the food's going to be going with that extinguisher. I'm not sure what happened there.
And you see Abigail just kind of like wide-eyed standing there with a now empty extinguisher. It's just like heavy handing. And Debbie is like instantly up and around the table to like get to Grandpa and Jesse, and is just like in full-on like protective mother comforting mode, like, oh my god, are you okay? Like, let's get you in the other room, let's get you something to drink. Catalina is just like sitting there kind of almost a little shell-shocked at what has just happened. You've never seen her not be reactive, not be able to jump in and do something. She is just totally like almost in fawn mode, and just like frozen in place.
Hey, Kat, you okay?
And she it looks like she takes a breath like she hasn't been breathing this whole time while she's been frozen in place, and she's like, that was just really close, Jesse. Like, I can't. And like you get the feeling that maybe this isn't the first time that something fire related has almost happened to Jesse, by her reaction. Because like you read her very well. Like she's not like this. She's not this shaken ever, except when it comes to like making sure her younger siblings are okay. Because when her father died 10 years ago, right? Her sister Stephanie was 7. Her brother Jesse was 3. So she kind of like stepped in as kind of an additional parental figure for them. And so she doesn't really get these kind of like panicking responses unless it's related to them and their safety.
He's okay. Grandpa got him, and everything's okay. It seems like this has happened before. Seems like you went somewhere.
I mean, not this exactly, but there have been, instances of things happening with Jesse, and he's the youngest, and we're all a little protective of him. He's just got like a little bit of worse luck than most people. It's just it's a little scary, and I couldn't do anything. And you see her doing. Normally, you're the one spiraling, and she's the one pulling you out of a spiral. But now you see her spiraling for like one of the few times you've ever seen her spiral in your relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the baby. There's only so much that you can do too. But what are you feeling right now? Can you name it?
Scared, I guess. Yeah. And maybe like worried, and I'm just anxious, I guess. I mean, because we kind of just ruined your family dinner.
Oh, trust me, there have been weirder things at this table.
And she kind of just like takes your hand and chills for a moment, and then you can see her make eye contact with her mom in the other room, where like her mom is like taking care of Jesse. And you weirdly also see Stephanie there. Like, you expected her to try and play it cool, but she is like over there also, like kind of like with an arm around his shoulders, kind of like talking to him, and they like, it almost seems like they're talking about something they've talked about before. And she goes, I'm gonna go make sure Jesse's okay.
Yes, absolutely. Do you need anything from me?
If you could maybe send Pixie over, I think Pixie would really help, like, give him something else to focus on.
Pixie goes where you go.
And like, just as you said that, because she stands up, you hear like a little like as like Pixie like does the stretchy wakey up thing, and like follows Catlina into the other room, and like looks over their shoulder at you as they're patting away, and kind of like gives you a wink, and then like hops into Jesse's lap and like fully settles down and starts doing little like kneading biscuits.
Is Grandpa around?
Oh yeah.
Did I see him?
Probably like helped lead Jesse out of the door, and then like remained within the kitchen or within the dining room to make sure everything was settled. He didn't leave the room.
Hey, Grandpa.
Yes. What is it, Maddie?
You noticed that too.
To be honest, I've been trying to not notice it.
What do we do? Has this happened? Have you noticed this kind of? Has this happened to you before? Not obviously.
In the house. Typically, with guests, I can prevent these sort of things through management of the house.
Mm-hmm.
But in his case, well, I'll be honest, I wanted to get a bit closer to inspect things.
What happens if he is a little bit more like our family?
Well, I suppose that's a conversation to have with his mother.
Oh.
And I don't believe that's one to have in a more family-oriented setting, rather a closed meeting. Perhaps we invite them for brunch next week to make up for the fiasco during dinner.
Cat doesn't know, Grandpa.
Well, she will eventually with that boy.
He needs support. He needs guidance.
We don't want the rest of the family finding out, so our best bet is to keep things under control for now. I don't believe he'll have any outbursts when he's not around as much of all of this. I believe he'll calm down once he's back home. But
what if it doesn't?
Well, then perhaps I just kind of looks out towards the front door a moment, and well, perhaps I have to leave the estate for a time and go for a more personal meeting. A knock on a door and, well, you know how the speech goes.
Yes, yeah. They're scared.
Oh, I understand. That was terrifying fiasco undergone there. Normally the flames aren't supposed to be going that way, but, well, there's that boy's magic is, well, not our sort. I have some contacts I can get him and you and his mother in contact with properly, and they should be able to help out with things, but that's outside my means. Beyond, well, if she didn't want it. Though I think that's a conversation more for his decision than hers.
Yeah, I don't know. He's just so young. I mean...
Well, it's about the time you started manifesting.
Yeah, but I knew.
Well, that's what makes it more dangerous. He doesn't know his limits or powers. I mean, remember what happened with Waldorf at that age?
I do.
Whole garden came to life.
He had so much fun, though. It's like a wonderland.
It was quite entertaining. For Utopia, it was magnificent. I've been trying to get to show them up again, but...
You don't think he's in danger right now, though?
If we keep things as calm and as we can for the evening, and, well, perhaps we don't tell Beatrix, you'll know how excited she gets over these things. Maybe we just keep things quiet as we can between you and Waldorf and myself. We can set up a proper family meeting when... I hate to put this on you, as, well, stressful as it may be, but you're going to need to tell her soon. Perhaps not today, but...
I meant to tell her so long ago, every time. And I just keep...
It's a hard catch to make. I mean, being Beatrice in the family was no easy dealings, but there's a reason she specializes in alchemy, as her magic's not all that potent. She's good with the servants and the more showy sort, but when it comes to, manipulation of time and space and matter, well, that's a different story altogether.
Well, she came from a different family, though, not one that... Yeah. We'll have to talk.
Kind
soon.
of wave Waldorf over a moment. Wally, would you mind, Maddie and I have a couple of questions, though. If everyone else could file into the sitting room, we'll be with you in just a moment.
Wally's been a little bit busy in the meantime. To be clear, Wally's been busy. Steve has been. Haven't had the experience of watching a stream while I'm on it, but wow, are you two guys amazing? But
Well, thank you.
Waldorf, in the meantime, has been working on clearing the table, getting the stuff back in the kitchen. Jesse, could you give me a hand?
Yeah, so you do see Grandma Beatrix is currently distracted because she has gone full on hostess mode, like trying to calm the guests down, get drinks flowing again, get everyone in a better mood from the disaster. And Jesse kind of starts a little bit what his name is called, and he kind of like looks at his mom to make sure it's okay, and she's like, "Yeah, let's go ahead, go on. It's okay. Nothing's gonna happen. It's fine." And looks down at Pixie and then looks over at Catlina, and Catlina's like, "Come here, Pixie." And Pixie gets up and moves over to Catlina's lap. And he kind of has that like hands in pocket, like hunched shoulders, like head down, kind of like awkward teenage boy walk as he like walks across the sitting area and over to where you are.
So we take a couple of loads of dishes into the kitchen together, and kind of piling them by the sink. You're not going to believe me, but I do have some idea how you feel. I was about your age. And he turns on the faucet. He's not going to do anything with fire, but turns on the faucet, and the water starts to run. And then hopefully, if things go according to plan, and there may be a dice roll involved, the water stops and starts going the other way.
I mean,
like,
for
back up.
For fun RP reasons, I'll give it to you.
And I'm gonna pause there and see if he gets what I'm trying to tell him.
And you see he like tentatively reaches out to like poke at the stream of water. And as he does, at first his finger is in the stream, and then you see it almost like splits around his finger as it goes back up into the faucet. And he's like, you almost see like a relief in there, like his shoulders are less hunched. And there's like a slight hopefulness to it, but there's also that very much skeptical, like, this is just, everything that's happened. This is, maybe I'm imagining things or seeing things, like it's not what it is. It's not possible kind of deal, which, you might be very familiar with if you do interact with, kids who are trying to figure out themselves, not just in your family, but maybe other magical families' kids as they're figuring out their own powers.
Yeah. I know it's a lot. For some people it can be scary, especially, well, as I was just reminded, flame can be destructive even without anything strange going on. But you're not crazy and you're not alone. That's all I want you to know.
And he does a very typical, like, teenager, doesn't look at you, but you can tell he's listening thing. And he goes from sticking his finger into the water stream to, like, almost, like, hesitantly, like having his hand out, and you see some of that water continue down past where you reversed it and kind of, like, flow into his hand and fill it up a little bit before some of it splashes on the dishes as that goes away. And you smell like almost that like fresh, steady rain kind of smell, that like petrichor, like that rain smell that happens in storms as he does it. And he just keeps staring at the water in his palm, like he can't believe that there's something actually there, and that this is actually happening. Like he's processing, but he's not like quite there on like the acceptance side of it yet.
Completely understood, and I'm not gonna push him. Just I play with the water for a moment longer, and then let it go and let it flow normally, and carry on.
And he's very silent, and he kind of just goes through the motions of like helping you with the dishes for a moment. And then you hear like very quietly. I'm not gonna do it as quietly as I want him to do it because my mic won't pick it up.
Yep.
But you hear very quietly, not looking at you, because again, just like pretending to do like doing dishes and not looking at you in acceptance, but like he kind of says, so like, is everyone in your family like this, or is it just you two?
Well, I know you feel alone in your family. I do have one cousin who has nothing at all. Sort of the talk about the black sheep of the family. He's the one white sheep of the family, as it were. So more common in some families, but can happen anywhere.
And he kind of just takes a few more moments to like keep washing the dishes, and then he goes, "Is Maddie?" And like it's like almost like he can't finish the sentence. He just kind of like trails off and lets the like sound of the water and the doing the dishes kind of like fill the space.
Well, that's her story to tell you, but like I said, you're not crazy. You're not alone, and if and when the day comes that you want to know more, you asked if there's anyone else in the family. You are family now.
And you see kind of like his shoulders have now like fully relaxed during this whole conversation, and you hear him kind of give a little bit of chortle, and he under his breath goes, "You're a wizard, Harry." And he pauses again, and this time he actually like turns to look at you, and he there's a little bit more volume in his voice with his next question, and he's like, "Is that why there's so many weird animals in the house?"
You might say so. And I mean, it's been a private conversation to begin with, but well, he's gonna lean in close to his ear, and like you said, not gonna drop volume too much, or just it won't carry over the stream. But I don't know if you noticed, but Kai's not a cat, and he walks away.
And you just hear as you walk away and back out into the dining room, "I knew Grandpa Eustachius was full of shit." This is not a conservation area.
Maddie, why don't you go see what Wally is up to? I have some things to grab, both of you, as well as the rest of our guests. I'll be back downstairs in a moment. And double checking that everyone has like left the room, he fully just discorporates. Just gone.
What does it smell like when you discorporate?
For the briefest moment when he disappears, it's like burnt rubber that then rapidly shifts into just like the smell that is brought on by an extremely bright light that's like burning the dust that lands on it, and just slowly fades from that heavy burned smell to that faint like, oh, there's something in here, but I can't name what it is, and then it's just gone.
Okay, and where are you going to, Grandpa?
Grandpa disappears from the kitchen and reappears in what has been magically warded several times over to make sure that no one can physically get to this door into his study. Just kind of sets a hand on his head, takes a seat at his desk for a moment, just... Well, this was more than I was hoping for the evening, but... Let's see, gifts. What would... The mundane and joy that still says family. Just kind of starts waving fingers around, books moving here and there, looking at things, and that might what? No, that, but there's kind of a ping in Maddie's mind. Do most of your family have mantles in their homes, or someone to hang something?
Sure, yeah, that makes sense, sure.
Fine, I'll be back down in perhaps 10-15 minutes.
Goes to find Wally.
That kid is really something.
He is, isn't he? Good talk?
I think so. Good start anyway. You remember that day when we were kids with the water balloons and yeah,
It's fun.
Yeah, it was. I think he's going to be okay.
I hope he learns to have fun with it. I'm not the one to teach anybody that, but it can be so much fun. I'm going to have to tell Debbie, aren't I?
Eventually, but I think helping him not be afraid of it is the first step before one panic attack at a time.
Oh, but you know I excel at multitasking.
Well, you do, but one person's panic attack at a time, shall we say.
Yeah. Thanks. I gotta tell my wife. That has to happen.
Yeah. I understand. And he got a teary look in his eye, remembering a long time ago.
Yeah. Might make this make a little bit more sense, though. She never really understood why I couldn't take on a new ring.
Oh, I understand.
Grandpa said he's got gifts.
There's just a distant, heavy kind of clomping coming down the stairs now. All right. Got things just about done and in order here. If anyone would mind helping me here, these are quite heavy.
And you see like Abigail and Georgie like rushing to help Grandpa.
Just carrying these large, they're like maybe 12 by 12 wooden boxes. They're just like probably about 4 inches deep. Just has a stack large enough that every single person in the family, minus like his wife and Wally and Maddie, would account for. Just kind of gets his hands free and sets them onto a table and just, pardon, had to finish up the paintwork on the last ones there. Oh, and I can see again, bravo. I've had things at the ready. Don't you worry.
Wally, how did we survive this long? How does everyone not already know?
Wally didn't want to physically scare Jesse, but boy, has he needed one. He gives Maggie the biggest hug, and whispers in her ear, I don't know, magic?
Yeah.
Well, if everyone would like to take one of these, just starts passing them out as slow grandpa walking over with one of them, handing them to someone while getting some of the kids to help hand them out. Now, I didn't want anyone feeling too special, so you're all getting the same thing.
And I'm assuming these are just like shipping box crates and not like Christmas.
They're not like wrapped presents. They're very well made wooden boxes. Like they've been well constructed, but they're not like fancy wood. They're like just plain, simple, like spruce. Just very plain, normal wood colored. There's a latch that's just keeping them closed that someone would have to undo to open it up. You can all open them once everyone has theirs. I don't want anyone peeking. Keep my eye on you.
So Angela and Georgie help you pass them out since they helped you bring down the incredibly large stack for a elderly man to try and bring down the stairs by himself.
They're not incredibly heavy, but like the number of them.
Yeah, the
individual
stack
box
of them.
is fairly light.
But
they're like near scraping the ceiling.
What you do notice though, is that Thursday kind of gives you a wink, Grandpa, and suddenly there is enough for everyone, including Wally, Maddie, yourself, and Beatrix.
For them, I have other gifts. Grandpa does play favorites with his grandkids. But handing out the boxes, everyone would get their own, and on three, everyone. 1, 2, and opening them up. There would be a like fine sheet of just like a square of velvet that's just covering it, and opening it up is a small, like it's 12 by 12. They're not huge, but it is like a heater crest aluminum shield that has been inscribed with the chimera glyph of the family. Now, that's for all of you, as you're members of the Aftermelons now by association through my dear Maddie. Considering you are family at its core, hang over your mantelpiece and show that you are among us. You are welcome in our household.
And I will say the ones that Thursday kind of added to the group, you do see kind of almost like it moving across the metal, like a ghosted form of your familiar, and a little bit of a trail of the type of magic you are associated with. As kind of like you did well enough to not completely give the game away.
As for your other gifts, Maddie and Wally and everyone, we'll be discussing those once dessert's been had.
Dessert remembers that I owe a platypus some cake somehow.
And you at the desserts thing, you do see kind of Catalina gently nudges Pixie off of her lap, and she does get up to kind of like make her way into the kitchen where Jesse still is, you assume, because he hasn't come out, to start with the pumpkin pie and the German chocolate cake. But you can also kind of like gently hear them talking, because she is big sister. But you do they do come out together. He's carrying the German chocolate cake, and she's carrying the now fully whipped creamed pumpkin pie. And bypasses kind of stopping in the dining room to the sitting room where Beatrix has placed somehow a serving kind of table or area for people to come and get dessert. And also somehow also has some like supplemental desserts on there, given the number of people, without ever having really gone to get them.
Catering, they think of everything.
Yeah. And you see her kind of like sets things down, and she kind of like comes over to stand by you and kind of like puts an arm around your waist and kind of like lets others go first to go get the dessert.
Not the biggest disaster so far.
And she kind of she can't do anything but just kind of like laugh a little bit.
You hanging in there?
Yeah, I think I'm doing okay. Definitely hasn't reached true crime podcast status yet.
Keep hanging out with Grandma Beatrice.
And she just kind of like laughs at that.
Dead serious.
I know you delivered it, but she just kind of like she's taking it as a joke.
Yeah. I think next time we have an exit word. An all-out, we're done word. Maybe before the pyrotechnics.
She kind of just laughs and like bumps hips with you a little bit, and it's like, it wasn't that bad. Come on. Remember that first dinner party we threw in that like tiny little apartment?
Oh, I don't think I'll ever outgrow the sound of that smoke alarm.
That was way worse than this.
It was. Though that might have been spacing more so than... You think we can keep doing these things?
We'll get better at it. And she kind of like looks at Jesse, who seems like he's a little bit more engaging with people and a little bit more in his element now, after things have calmed down, and like looks over to Stephanie, who's like again in some sort of like really intense debate or conversation with Thursday, and even her mom Debbie is like engaged in what you know without a doubt is probably another true crime thing with Grandma Beatrix, as they're getting some desserts together at the table. She's like, see, it didn't go so bad. And Grandpa Theodore is like super investigating the thing that Grandpa Eustachius just passed out, and is like asking questions of like the family members around him, and being like, oh, I didn't know like there was a Manticore family crest, and da da da. And like she's like, see, I told you it wouldn't be so bad.
Well, you know how my brain goes. Sometimes you just gotta think the worst. So, I owe a platypus some cake. You hungry still?
He like gives you a very strange look, and you can almost see like there's like the beginning of a connection in her brain that's not quite there, and she's like, sure, let's go get some cake.
Let's hold her hand. Kind of do the squeezy thing.
So Barry the platypus gets his cake and is very happily just mushing in his bill some German chocolate cake, making like happy purr trill sounds as he does so. And shares a little bit with Cher, the Komodo dragon, at some point. But yeah, so it seems the event has gone off without being too terribly of a disaster. There are conversations to be had later for the in-laws, given the revelations of Jesse. But it seems like, for the moment, at least the melding of families, blending of the two have gone not terrible, for the time being. And so we are going to start kind of like zooming out of this family event as everyone is like having desserts and drinking and having a good merry time. I am going to leave us on a little bit of a cliffhanger because that's what I love to do. We haven't seen Eugene in a while. And so
I was going to ask, dang it.
From somewhere deep in the house, probably in the direction of where the basement used to be, you do hear a scream, and then we're out of the house as the scream kind of reverberates through the neighborhood.
The troll!
Thank you all for joining us. Even though we gut punched you in the feels there at the end, thank you so much for all of your donations. Thank you to my wonderful players for all of the wonderful role playing that you all have done through the night. Once again, I will remind you all, there is also a giveaway involved in the chat. There's more details in the chat about that. So this is probably your last chance to do the thing before we close the entry to the thing. Yep, not at the point where I'm forgetting words. If you have any last minute donations you want to get in, please do. Thank you so much for coming. I'm going to go through the players once again so you all can find them if you would like, and follow them. I don't remember what order I went in last time, so I'm just going to go over my screen again. Please let everyone know who you are, where they can find you, and the character screen names are the only ones that are on my screen, so Uncle Wally, let them know where they can find you.
I am Steve, TallHalfling on the socials. And I'd like to think that as everybody's leaving, Wally grabs a potted plant from somewhere in the house, and gives it as a weird gift to Jesse, and just says, "Remember, water it every day," and walks back into the house.
Awesome. And then we will go to Maddie.
Hi, I'm Mira, and I'm Moko-ish on TikTok, most socials, and I don't do anything fancy, and I am just so excited that we got to play our little game. This was so fun.
Awesome. And then, of course, Grandpa.
I'm Devin, or Archedas, as most people know me online. I'm the lead technical producer and studio support, as well as showrunner for UGT's show, UGT Entertainment. We do live play shows every Saturday and Sunday currently, with a new series that's going to be starting up here at the beginning of the year. In the beginning of the year, sometime in January, for some Starfinder stuff. But you can find me on Archedas2 on Twitter, or I halfway help with all of the UGT socials, so anywhere that you can talk to us, our Discord server, Twitter, everywhere, you'll be able to get in contact with me. And I do have a present for Jesse before we go. Simple little gold page grimoire. Just kind of pat him on the shoulder as he's going to walk out, and just, I've heard that you and Wally had quite the interesting conversation, and well, you're ever needing someone to talk to, well, perhaps that book will give you a good way to journal and get in contact with some folks who might be able to help out with things. Just kind of give him a wink. A little sparkle comes off.
Awesome. I am Kayla Baines, or DM Dalliance. You may know me from some of the crazy stuff I have put out as a freelancer. Adventurers Domestic Guide, Encounters in Candlekeep, etc. Or as the general manager for UO Publishing. You can find me on Twitter. I refuse to use the other name at Just Thinking Gay, which has my link tree to all the other socials and everything you could possibly want to find me on. And I will add, because we're doing a little bit of closing scenes too, that as the in-law family leaves, probably post another adventure where this Eugene problem is handled, you do see that Stephanie and Thursday do exchange numbers.
Yes.
So that is something that
Gail
happens.
doesn't know what she's getting into with that house.
Prep and goth solidarity. Let's go.
Thank you so much for joining us. I believe we will be closing out the raffle or giveaway or whatever's going on. If not, I'm going to let the voice of the universe from Diversity Saves let us know what's going on.
You conjure in the voice of God.
Voice of the universe here. Hello, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and close that giveaway now. So if you want to enter it, this is your last chance. ! Giveaway in the chat to win a free copy of the Stillfleet core rulebook. Stillfleet is an independently created sci-fi RPG with some horror and political elements to it. Last chance to enter. Going once. Going twice. All right. Giveaway is closed. We will go ahead and run that giveaway. And it looks like Complex Rituals. You are our winner for tonight. So congratulations. I will... I gotta figure out a way to get a hold of you. Yeah, congratulations. I'll reach out to you if you want to just leave me what your socials are or whatever it is in the chat. I can grab that and get that over to you. Meanwhile, thank you everyone so much for joining us tonight for our first game in the Haunted Holidays charity game stream. Thank you, Kayla. Thank you, TallHalfling, aka Steve, Devin, and Mira for helping us do this. Diversity Saves, as it says here on the fancy little page, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization that focuses specifically on the TTRPG industry, and even more specific than that, the marginalized communities within it. We are first and foremost an organization that focuses on diversity and inclusion and trying to bring more voices from more diverse communities into the TTRPG space. When you have a larger collection of voices, you get to tell better stories. It's as simple as that, and we want to help to pursue that in every way we can. So we do charity streams like this every couple months to help raise funds for our grant cycles. We give out grants to people from marginalized communities and people who are helping to raise diversity and inclusion awareness in the TTRPG industry, in the space. And we actually just opened up our grant cycle for our next cycle of grants, which will be happening at the beginning of next year. So if you are looking to apply for a grant, if you have a project you're working on, go to diversitysaves.org. You can check us out. You can apply for a grant, and maybe you'll get picked and get a little bit of extra funds for your project. Thank you again, everyone, and have a good night.